I think it's a really mm, maybe pivotal point, or anyway. Look, I think it's important to appreciate where people come from. What are they a seeker? Are they a so-called informal seeker, or are they, on a distinct pilgrimage to get enlightened, or where do they come from? So,
Mm.
I mean, one of the things I realized a long time ago when I tried to help somebody that ended up disastrously because they had no idea where I was coming from, um, is that you only offer this to people who ask for it, people who are interested in it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I had a message from a friend who comes to our Friday group that I've mentioned. She listened to some of the stories I put on YouTube, and she said these are great, and but not because I was doing them, but she said the content, which is all from your bot, stories generated. She said I can see it. Um, I don't know what I can find her exact quote, but it was on WhatsApp. But it was basically that people are up for this. She's an osteopath and she meets a whole range of people. I mean, some would be into this because not some people still think osteopathy is woo,
Mm.
but a lot are not. They just go for the fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she's got a good feel of the general zeitgeist regarding this. And she said, no, you get these predictions that we are living in a time that, but there is kind of a sense of that. I mean, it's a story, yeah, but yeah. So I think so, and it is important to address people where they're at. And I'm like you, I'm very wary of treading. I just listen usually to people.
Mm.
Well, yeah, largely.
Yeah, 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 I get it.
Yeah.
Mm. Charmaine, are you there?
Yes, indeed.
I
Oh, I just realized I had my audio on. You can probably hear the
No,
noise in the
I couldn't hear that. That's fine. Yeah, the Zoom does a pretty good job of getting rid of the background noises.
back. Okay, yeah,
But
good. I'm glad.
yeah, 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 yeah. I just wanted to say to you, look, what I I take a message that if you've got your camera off, that you don't want to talk or be involved. Although there is, some people do talk with their video off. But if I won't ask you to talk or ask you anything if you've got your video off, just as a
Oh,
because that's the way
okay.
I see it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But feel
Oh,
free to jump in. There's no problems. If you want to say something and your video's off, do it. You don't have to put it on to say something. Yeah. But if you've got anything you want to talk about, anything that is bubbling away for you, certainly jump in anytime and bring it up, and no worries.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just caught the tail end of this conversation, so I'm not oriented yet. So I don't really know what you're talking about. Let me listen for a little bit. And
Okay.
but I
Well,
was trying to
yeah.
yeah.
Tim's not here as a seeker, so it's a bit of just killing time and talking about social stuff, and anything
Okay.
that might be relevant will come in. But yeah, so yeah, he's got
So
nothing to work on.
oh, okay. I do have
Well,
something to work on. Should I? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
I've
Not right now. Yeah.
got an infinite amount. I can have enough for both of us.
Go for it or
Yeah,
not.
okay. Can I, and I'm in your, I'm not interrupting a flow of something you were talking about?
No, never worry about that.
Okay. Okay. So here's a question. I'm aware of perceptual filters. I'm aware that I'm still looking out through these eyes, still um, considering myself a self, right? Not all the time, but most of the time. And I keep hearing teachers say that like there's no agency and you can't really do anything about it. But I'm just wondering, is there like a backdoor loophole where you can kind of boost yourself into clearing your filters, uh, um, um, kind of exponentially making, you know what I mean? Like just speeding things up, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
what yeah.
And I also realize that's probably kind of grasping or impatient or um but
Let's
still like can't be that there's no agency whatsoever,
well,
right?
yeah, yeah. Well, it's in the beginning we would say no agency, you know, that's so we're trying to unglue uh things that have been habitually kind of stuck together just because
Yeah.
they've been rubbing up against each other for a lifetime. So in a sense, but then we reach a point where you are, where what we do is start looking much more at the details, and so it becomes not a black and white issue, you know.
Yeah.
So if you let's say in the old language we would say you motivate yourself, right? So you something gets you excited, some idea about achievement or about something gets you excited. That's real. That happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Now, if we look at what that thing is that motivated you, we might end up saying, "Oh, but that's just the story." So what?
So what if it's a story? Is that what you mean? Like,
Yes, that's right, exactly. So if it got you excited about something, and that was the
yeah,
intention of it, let's
yeah.
say it is a story, but it was a useful story.
Hmm. Okay.
But there's another layer, there's another level there that's worth looking at, and that is, of course, you can do that to yourself to the point of exhaustion or to the point of not getting anywhere, and you end up feeling like a failure, and the whole thing was an agent failed. So the sense of agency, you know, is given life, and then it's given a judgment, and then we chop its head off because it failed miserably. And so that's a trap that's inbuilt into that kind of thing. So what? See, the thing is, don't listen to teachers. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anybody. Definitely don't listen to me. These words words are going to get you into trouble. So, all right, there's no sense of agency. I, and how do I put this? I know that to be the case,
Okay.
which we won't bother to analyze, you know, whether my knowing is anything more than a belief or what, because that's what it is. It's a belief. However, that belief exists because I've seen it. I've just every day I get multiple reaffirmations, confirmations that things don't need an agent to happen.
Hmm.
Things just happen all the time. You know, a bird flies and lands there. What, did I do anything? Because when we're talking about agency, we're talking about me, my agency.
Hmm.
You know, did I even give a single thought to walking into here and sitting down? It just happened. I can add a story to it and claim ownership of it and say I did it, but that's just a description of the happening because I'm not going to take it literally. I know there's no I, and I know there's no doing, and then I know there's no it. Those are just words that we use to describe it. So whether there is a sense of agency or not, it's imperative that you recognize there are those words, and then there is a recognition of the actuality of it. And until you have that recognition, don't worry about the words. They're a promise. Just put them in up as a promise
Okay.
that it will happen. Now, it will more likely happen because we've had this conversation. It will more likely happen because that's where your interest is, and your question mark, and your curiosity. I love curiosity. That's great. So that's going to make it more likely to happen. And guess what? It's not a special event. It's what always was the case, except you never saw it because you believe the stories about Charmaine being a competent doer.
Not so confident. Yes, I get the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you see, the complexity of this is amazing because it spirals around all sorts of things.
Yeah.
For there to be a doer, we have to have the see a doer is a noun. It's a person, a doer. In this case, it's a noun. It could be an adjective, I suppose, but essentially, it takes a self to be a doer. If there's no self, there's no doer. If there's no doer, there's no self. Can't have a doer without there being a self. The thing is with a self, and it's much more obvious with the idea of a self, is that same as agency, there never was a self, but there always was the illusion of a self, because that's the way we've been brought up. We've been given a name, and we've been given all sorts of characteristics have added to. We've got a storybook full of characteristics about Charmaine, things she likes and doesn't like, what she looks like, what she wears, what she owns, all of that. It goes on and on and on, 756 pages of characteristics about Charmaine that you've collected since you started collecting ideas about a person, about a self. But they're a story, and so they have no inherent.
Like the power, there's no power to the story. There's
Yes, exactly. Power is a good word. They don't have any. They are passive words or images or something else we don't even know of. How does it exist when we're not aware of it? But yet it does. It exists as potential. Right. So we can never read the whole book at once. All we can ever do is open it up to a page and go to a particular word or sentence and go, that's all I can focus on at the moment. So if we're talking about Charmaine's little toe on her left foot, we're not thinking about her ear. It's just one thing at a time. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
And there's some, but when one of those does get focused on, oh boy, can we respond? Can we react to that with emotion? You know, Charmaine's pretty. Charmaine's not pretty. Whatever. We react to it. Of course, we react to it. That's what happens. But it's not because the words make us react to it. It's how we interpret them. A whole lot of things that we're not even aware of get activated, get triggered when we hear those words. The words themselves didn't do a thing. They're just chalk on a blackboard or ink on a page or thoughts in a head. They're nothing. no power.
Right. Oh man, it's so difficult. Well, it's not, I shouldn't even say that, but it's just, it's a real paradigm shift for sure.
Mm, yeah,
No power in your emotions, no power in your thoughts,
yeah.
no agency. Mm. Yet there seems to be such a strong desire um, for some things, right? That feels like a drive, and drive, just by its definition, has movement, which feels like power.
Mm,
It's such a mind messes with your mind. Yeah.
mm,
Um,
yeah. So one of the things that's obvious is that if a sense of self gets triggered, then
yeah.
then it's there as experienced as a sense of self, right? But that doesn't mean there is one, a sense
Right.
of self.
Yeah.
What it means is there's a sense of self, which is an interpretation,
Right.
right? But it's the familiar one. It's been there forever and ever and ever and ever. So it comes really easy, really strongly, really quickly. And the unfamiliar one, that there is no self, oh, that kind of waddles in afterwards. It's kind of takes a while, but it gets better and faster the more we
Yeah.
use it. Yeah.
Right.
Until we
Yeah.
get to a certain point and then we go, oh, that's a stupid game. I'm bored with that. I don't care. I don't even do it anymore. Yeah. I know there's no flying saucer hovering over the house. I know there's no three-headed monster crawling out of the ocean. I know there's, but I don't even think about those things. And a lot of things that I would have to pause and think about. Do I know that? Those are the things that are the sneaky ones, like the things that sound quite credible because they're familiar. That's a big one. They're credible because they're familiar, and yet they imply the existence of a self or the existence of an agent or a doer or whatever. They imply those things, and if we have the thought, say the sentence, whatever that, but we hold it very lightly because we realize it's um, just a label we're putting on things just for the sake of communication or whatever, then there's no identification involved in the fact that it happens. You know, if,
Right.
if it gets questioned and we want to grab hold of it and be defensive, that's another
Yeah.
story. Yeah, we've got identification, and that rests on another belief just underneath.
Okay, so let's say you have a strong belief and a strong emotion that you're right on the precipice of saying that's crazy, don't believe your mind, or it's true. Like let's say you're captivated by a thought and emotion, yeah. Um Now, like you said, you can either just notice it or sometimes you grab onto it. Let's say you grab onto it and you've got your teeth in it. It's like dog with a bone, you won't let it go. What would you do? Would you back out of it? Would you back out of it um with some logic, or would you just kind
Uh,
of talk to yourself, lighten your grip, let it dissolve, notice it, that kind of
that,
thing?
that will just happen or not? No, keep going. What other options are there?
What other options? So you can grab onto it, you can say no, you can get disciplined and stop the thought, which sometimes feels like it works.
Yep. Yeah.
Or you can tell another story. And we talked about this before. You can tell another story to soothe yourself out of it. which isn't the best thing to do, because then you're using one story to negate another story, and you're still in the story. Um, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she was saying that she just notices. If something grips, she just decides to notice.
Okay, well,
And
give me more on that one. That's not one you've offered so far. Now you're offering it on behalf of someone else. But
yeah,
tell me what your thoughts are about that. How does that
okay.
resonate for you, that one?
Well, I think it's a great idea if you can do it. Like if the charge isn't there, right? Theoretically, it's fantastic.
Okay, it's a great idea if you can do it. That's beautiful. It's a great idea. Oh, okay, there's a thought we'll give credibility to. If I can do it. Oh, if I've got enough agency or control.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Let's just consider it. Let's simplify it a little bit and just consider it as an option to add to the list that you've just given us and see which one how it feels compared to the others. And that just noticing it is beautifully put. What does that mean? It means that there is no attempt to change it. We're not
Mm.
we're not pushing it, pulling it, holding it, releasing it. We're not, it's just there being noticed. There is no opinion about it. There is no judgment of it. There is just the existence of whatever we are interpreting it to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, now, where's the, what do you mean by if I'm able to do it? Right. Right. Let's start with not being able to do it. Why would you not be able to do it? Or let's change it to better language and let's say, why would that not happen for you?
I guess maybe because of what you said earlier, like it's layered on top of other beliefs. Oh no, but that's still agency. I was gonna say if it weren't so layered on top of all these beliefs, then I'd have agency if I was down at the ground level. I could move the ground piece, but I can't move it if it's like, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just maybe hormones, or like when you have a negative emotion or something, there's a chemical reaction, right? Either fear or panic or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Stress hormones, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess maybe it's just the belief in the biological structure that, if you still have a sense of the self, you're still operating within a physical body that has all of its pulleys and its levers, right?
Oh,
That kind of.
okay. All right. Stop. How can we simplify that to a level of possibility, right? It's not we certainly could. We could write a thesis on the complexity of it for sure, right? But we don't need to, right? Let's just say in your experience, it feels like it would be difficult to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, simply yeah.
But have you ever done it?
Well, yeah, I feel like I have. Like I feel like I've been able to
Right. Now,
uh,
was it difficult when you did?
yes.
Right. Oh, okay. So there was a struggle to do it, was there?
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
Right. And
It
what
felt
was the
like
struggle
a
about?
power, battling of a demons, and then you finally get it down on the ground, and there's like this relief of success. Yeah.
So what were the bits and pieces of you of the struggle? What was the struggle about? that you
like,
describe as being as difficult?
you mean like the particulars?
Well, we're not. We don't just go towards them as far as we need to communicate, right?
Yeah,
So I mean, I'm not too concerned about the particulars. If you can give me
the general, okay.
the aspect,
Panic,
yeah,
panic, panic about something that, some situation that was, out of my control. Like something bad would happen to me or to a family member, and, it just circumstances would felt out of control, right? Like, you can't control other people, you can't stop people from, I don't know, and then
yeah.
just
Okay, now
yeah,
this is interesting. We're talking about no control, but here's the source of fear and
yeah,
other unpleasant stuff because of having no control. Right? That's interesting, isn't it?
yeah.
That we're seeing control in a different way there, aren't we? So, is it? Would you say? Can you see quite clearly that control wasn't about actual control? What that was about possibilities that
Yes.
that
That's
existed in stories.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Now, after the event, would you clearly say that having those stories about those possibilities was a bit of a waste because it didn't eventuate?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a waste of time, waste of energy, waste of yeah, right, waste of resources in whatever way.
So here's a big one. This is a really, really, really big one. Do, there's a lesson in that, if you can hook into the lesson, that says under no circumstances is it I don't know what the right word, productive. Is it productive to have those fantasies ahead of time? If you were to simply not have them, if they weren't there and they never eventuated, it would be you wouldn't even know it, would you? It'd just be whatever. But you would have been minus all of the anxiety and stress hormones, etc., everything that happened as a result of reacting to those stories. That's quite clear. You can see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So does that offer us at least a fantasy about the possibility of not jumping the gun in life? I want to say ever, but maybe some variation on ever, but just not jumping the gun and always saying, "Oh, what's going on right now for me? Right now, oh, there's feet on the floor, bum on a chair, back
yeah,
against that, sound of my voice, head nodding. That's
yeah,
that's what's going on right now." And when I'm focused on that, there's no room for what if stories.
yeah, that's right. And if you decided to interject and say, just kind of reverse psychology, "Oh, I must want to waste all my time."
Yeah, good one.
Or
Exactly. Yeah,
right? Oh,
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
no, that's right. There's actually no time for spinning off into the mind if you're like you say, feet on the floor, feel the cool air on your skin, right? Look around the room. There's yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Engage the senses. Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. There's a good paradigm shift there. Yeah.
And just entertain the fantasy that that it it's it's possible for that to be the dominant way of being. right? So that well, let's not do stupid things like say stories about it will always be the case, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously there's learning involved, and we will get better and better at it over time. That doesn't exist, but that's another story, right? We have to we have to use stories sometimes. So there you go. So in the future, you'll be better as a result of practice, as a result
Right.
of doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another real trick, and it's a bit of a subtlety, and that is that when you catch yourself not doing that, it's not bad or wrong. It's not a failure. What it is the moment when you realize. And
Yeah.
that moment is to be celebrated because that's what's going to invite them back more frequently. That
Right. Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can
Yeah.
never feel bad about anything that happens, anything we do, anything we say. That's no point whatsoever in feeling bad about it. It's done, finished.
Hmm. Yeah. No sense pondering the possible negative consequences,
Yeah.
right? Because that's more story too, just in the other direction, right?
Yep.
Yeah. 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 No, I'm glad you said that. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really crazy to consider that lots of people live all of their waking moments and probably significant parts of their sleeping moments reacting to the content of the stories that they've got going.
Yeah.
That's a blowout. That's a wow, you know. But it works for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah.
Just never. I'm lucky because it never really worked for me that well. And that's it's, yeah.
You had a defunct coping mechanism.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it
You
did
could
work,
get
but
it
it's never
going,
good
right?
enough. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. Lucky you. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
I don't imagine the discovery ever really stops. You know, it just the more you focus on this kind of stuff, the more you discover, and it just goes on and on and on forever. Yeah. So you know that you're never ever going to get to uh, a, um, a place, a point where you say, "I'm awakened."
I'm
That
done.
that's not going to happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you do get to a place where you can say that a significant proportion of your life can be described as you interacting with what is actual.
Yeah, like you can get to a point to say, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done in the sense of there's nothing to do but just be in accord with what is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And you know, this is crazy, but not being in accord with what is being in accord with what is.
Oh, I have to think about that one.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I don't know where that stuff comes from, but yeah,
So you're just accepting that your state is one of resistance, and that's a part of what is.
Exactly. Exactly. Perfect. Yeah. So
Oh, that's really cool.
what does it
Yeah.
say that you can see that? That's brilliant. I love it. I love it. I'm really excited about that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
fully expected looks of something about that. Yeah, good. Yeah. So that then makes it really easy to recognise that there's no right or wrong. It can't possibly there can not possibly be right or wrong or good or bad.
Yeah.
We can describe pleasant or unpleasant easily, but good or bad, if we're using that in a literal way, how can that possibly be? The moment you look at those things, they just dissipate into what is actual, and it's something else altogether.
Right. Yeah.
No right or wrong. So failure and success, that there you go. That also is just a way of describing something that is not very functional.
Would you say that you could describe not as good or bad, but you could say something's in the process of creation, something's in the process of preservation, something's in the process of destruction. You know that the kind of the threefold cycle of creation. You could say that, right? Or is even that kind of conceptualizing?
Yeah, it is. It is when you think about it, like whether let's take the act of creation or destruction, either way, the same thing, just in different directions. So there's got to be a before and after.
Right,
There's got to be the way it was and the way it will be.
right.
But how can they be anything other than the way it is at the moment, even if it's in the middle of transition?
Yeah,
It only exists as it is at the moment. The way it was is just the story about it, and the way it will be is another story.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's the same thing as past, present, future. It's a
Yeah,
story.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. Alice in Wonderland, hey?
Yeah. Oh, the white rabbit.
I've seen you have 3 distinct shifts this afternoon. Do you do you well, what's your reaction to that? Do you resonate with that? Do you recognize that's happened?
Yeah. Now that you say it, yeah, I can feel that. Yeah. More present or settled or yeah.
Yeah, some
Or
things to think, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And you can see that in the old way, the old traditional way of doing it, you can say, "Oh, that's caused by da 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 da."
Yeah.
But that's obvious to me. Is it also obvious to you that that is just a story as well?
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
how
mean,
about
it has to be logically, it has to be, although it does feel like cause and effect. But
mm,
that's again, it may feel like that, but that goes back to what you said earlier. Something can feel like something, and at the same time, you can be separate from it and recognize the feeling is just a thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a distinction I didn't have before. Yeah. That it can feel strongly like something and at the same time
Yes.
not thing. Yeah.
That's big. That's really big. Yeah, because that kills the meaning that we used to apply to the in before. You know that that's happening, and that means da 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 dum, and
Yeah.
that meaning is gone when it's like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about this one for cause and effect? This was a bit of a life changer for me. This one, that the concept of cause and effect is a simplistic notion. Right? When we talk about it in our society, we generally talk about one or maybe a couple of circumstances having a particular outcome. All right? Does that ring true for you so far?
Yeah. I
That's what
mean, in
cause
the
and
same
effect. Yeah,
way. Yeah.
yeah. But the reality is that there's a lot more involved than just those obvious causes. Those are what we take to be causes. Those things themselves only exist the way they do because of a whole lot of other things that are conditions that they require to be in existence. And those conditions that it requires to be there, they also have conditions that they're reliant on for their existence. And those conditions have conditions that they're relying on. And this goes back to the beginning of time or existence, right? So there's not a single thing that's ever happened anywhere in the world that isn't involved in any happening, whatever. So it's like nothing can be separated out because everything is codependent. If it's not like it's at 6 degrees of separation. It seems like infinite, but it's not very many when you start looking at it like that. And so that butterfly in the Amazon flapping its wings is only 6 degrees away from you sitting there right now, or me here. And so we can see that that dependency is really strong. So if I was to magically remove any one of the conditions that the conditions were dependent on that make a happening happen, it doesn't matter how far back I go. If I removed one of those conditions, things would be different. Everything would be out of alignment, or it would be aligned differently. And so the consequence is that that happening would be different. It can only be the way it happened because everything was the way it was.
Mm.
Now that's kind of logical, but it also there's a real sense of rightness about it. Do you get that? Do you feel that?
Yeah. I mean, it feels like there's like a structure underneath, and and potentially the moment wouldn't be so there wouldn't it would take away the thoughts that say you have to hold yourself up or you have to hold things together,
Mm,
right? I mean, the image that comes to mind is just this structure that holds you, and you just
yep.
kind of you're
Yeah.
just there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably just more imagination and concepts, which is it's just the way my brain is trying to
Way of
articulate what I
looking at it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
figure.
just got this image of one of those domino towers that sometimes people will make, and that can be 50 foot high. This amazing spire built out of dominoes, and then they flick one over and it runs down a line, and then eventually they all fall, every domino, and then you see these structures, and the bottom part of it comes away. And then the top half of it falls down. It's like that's amazing the way that happens. But it's like none of those dominoes could exist without all of the other dominoes being in exactly the right place.
Right. Yeah.
If you went and just removed any one of them from anywhere, just took one out, the whole thing would collapse.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of a happening, any happening.
Yeah.
So circling back, how simplistic is this idea of cause and effect? It works for us, but it's simplistic.
Right. It's like, yeah, telling a child a story.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Don't do that or that'll happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, that explanation and the boing that happened as I did that mind boggle of chasing it back to no matter where or how far back, and it was all absolutely critical. That also gave me a really strong sense of involvement in everything and oneness. That word oneness kind of echoes a flavor of a feeling that came for me that with that particular notion, that mind boggle. That was that. Oh, the immensity of it it's infinite. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it could go either way. Like I sense the freedom there too. Or you didn't say freedom, but I sense the beauty of that, the vastness and the intricacy and so on.
Yes.
Um, but like I think if I heard that a few years ago, I would have perceived it in the opposite direction. I would have perceived it as like lack of freedom,
Oh
right?
wow. Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
Yes. Yeah. I can twist around and see it possibly like the yeah. So that's when we say there's no sense of agency or no control, etc. Some people, well, anyway, it's possible that somebody could interpret that as that this is a deterministic uh, universe that we live in, that everything is predetermined. I couldn't be further from the truth. Because whatever happening is happening right now is dependent on an infinite number of circumstances. Well, every one of those circumstances is in constant change. It's
mm,
being recreated and becoming different. So how can anything be determined? It's not possible. It's just like, wow, everything is a virginal breakfast. Thanks, Tim. I meant to say everything is a virginal happening. Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. So pure. There's
Mm,
a there's
mm.
beauty there.
Yep.
That's
Original,
a
totally
nice,
original. Yes.
right. Original, pure. Yeah, that's really nice to reflect on that. Yeah, not stagnant, not old, not like mimicking, but just like a freshness, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another realization that just triggered for me that I had some time ago was the um I want to say immensity, but that's not the word I mean. That's not quite what I mean. But anyway, I'll say it. The immensity of the recognition that now is not a moment in time sandwiched between the past and the future. Right? That now this instant, which is so elusive because I can't even finish saying the word this before it's gone, and the next one's there, and the next one, and 1,000 more, and so on. But this instant, every single instant, which is the only thing that is actual, this instant is absolutely fresh, absolutely unique, absolutely, yeah, unique in every way. But it comes and goes so quickly, and that sounds like we're talking about time again, but we're not. It's the instant of its appearance is before the instant of our awareness of its appearance, and the instant of our awareness is just a memory of it. So really, our only way of connecting with this instant is via a memory in real time. But this every instant is a a total remake of the world. Every instant, excuse me.
So what's another way to describe it if you don't want to describe it as unstable? Like if there's a remaking in every instance, which of course is true as you say it makes sense. Um like it's there's no stability. So how would you say it in a way that doesn't have like a negative connotation because
Yeah,
unstable it's not very appealing, right?
yeah. So see how the one thing leads us to another too. That's amazing the way that works, and that so I immediately think of in terms of stability. Well, then I go, well, that's right. There's nothing is stable. What is our relationship to stable? And immediately we can fall into that. It makes us feel secure. It makes us feel safe. Stability gives predictability to what might happen. So those stories are more likely to align with something we call reality, maybe. But all of that is has no existence. So when we talk about stability, we that's a noun. And we're saying stability is a thing, really, isn't it? Just what when we talk about being stable, we're trying to describe a characteristic of something.
Right.
And
Yeah.
really, we're referring to those characteristics that make us feel good in stable, and in unstable, those characteristics make us feel threatened.
Hmm. Because of our thoughts, because of our beliefs.
Well, because of the concept of instability.
Yeah.
So, is there really any such thing as stability? And does that leave us frightened that if there's no stability, does that mean that there is instability? Not necessary, is it? So the lack of one thing doesn't mean the opposite prevails. This is not a binary world. This is not on or off, one or zeros. This is not
Yeah.
one or the other. We can have both there. We can have none there. We can have half of one there, maybe. I don't know. But so the idea of stability sounds good. There's another story. That's a beautiful story. We imbue everything. Every single word we say is imbued with a morality. It's imbued with the way we feel about it, the way we've learned to respond to it. Every word, even the really innocent prepositions, in and of and so on, they have what we would call value. They have, at a level of our feeling, we respond to words differently. And so instability, like insanity, like probably a whole lot of words, they come out of the not good basket.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And stability's definitely one in the good basket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the baskets themselves are just stories, aren't they? And so the whole thing is a story. So is it in myself, would I see something as stable and good and instable, unstable? See, instability and unstable. Just play with words like that. It's really interesting. But anyway, no, I I wouldn't. That's one of those stories I just dismiss.
Right.
Stability.
Yeah.
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 The fact that everything is always changing, right? For somebody, for somebody who's learned that stability is a good thing, that could be threatening for them. But see, there's another reality at a molecular level. Instability or chaos or movement or whatever, to whatever extent, unpredictable movement, that's absolutely necessary for existence. Nothing is,
Right.
there's no
Right.
static anything.
Yes. Yeah. 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 The closer you look at the atoms and
Yeah.
at a kind of clear level. Um, yeah.
If we were to freeze frame it, it would fall apart.
Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, mhm.
We have learned so much. I mean, we've filled our heads with encyclopedia and kind of volumes of stuff. And it's only the familiarity that makes it acceptable. It's only the familiarity with it that makes it sound credible. As soon as we look at it with fresh eyes, all of a sudden, so much of that stuff just dissolves. It just can't stand scrutiny.
Yeah. So I wonder if it would be good. Can I say something? Are you thinking
Yeah,
of
yeah,
something?
no, you go. Yeah, yeah.
So this idea of identity, how it's kind of stuck or frozen, or we hold on to it. We don't want it to change, right? Our identity. I wonder if thinking about identity as that kind of, or thinking about identity at the molecular level, and
Mm,
then seeing all, like, just imagining seeing all the movement that can't not be there, if that would kind of aerate identity and make it not so frozen, right?
that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, absolutely. And certainly when we start to look at, like, so we start off with, and this works for everything. I'm really excited that we label things. See, and so when we label things, the traditional thing in our society is essentially we stop at the label. That's it. We've labeled it. That's it. We don't need to go any further. We don't need to look at it. We've got it. We know what it is. There it is. There's a label. It's under that label. That's what it is. But the label is not the thing. The label only is just meant to point us at something. But when we take the label to be the thing, that's where we stop. We don't get any closer to it. So you're walking along a path and you see a tree and the brain goes, tree. That's it.
Mhm.
You've got an image
Yeah.
of a tree and that's what you relate to from then on, right? Unless there's a reason for you to, if the idea occurs to you to go up and interact with the tree, then it's a different story. But essentially, for the sake of this exercise, your brain creates an impression. It's not even a distinct image. It's an impression of everything it knows about a tree or trees, right? And then you relate to that, right? So you might, your brain might come up with a name of the kind of tree or not, or a big tree or a little tree, or it's, you know, whatever. So there are these descriptions that come on, but essentially there is no relating to what is actual under these circumstances. And even though you're walking along the path, you're not aware of the feeling between the soles of your feet and your shoes, or the pressure on the ground, because you're doing something else. You're lost in
Mhm.
storyland. And so the amazing thing is, the moment you start to notice the ground you're walking on, or notice the tree, or notice anything, oh, it's a whole world of interaction. It's just so it's it's magic.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in order to get closer to interacting with the tree, you have to get closer to realizing it's not there. It's kind of like inquiry, right? Who am I? You
Yeah.
got to get closer to realizing that, oh, I can't actually find it in order to have sensations or interaction with what's actually going on. So it's the labeling it. It's the opposite of labeling.
Yes.
Like when,
It's
yeah, but
so
suppose it's that paradox, right? That,
yeah.
there's always the paradox.
So I just have this concept in my head that you go towards it, and then there's the label, and you're going past the label, and down underneath the label, words don't work real well. You know, you could create a sentence to describe something that could be short termed as the label, but essentially, you know, very quickly you run out of the narrative about something, and you're just noticing sensory input as in terms of your interaction with whatever it is there. Now, of course, you
Yeah,
can't do that 100% of the time, all the time. You just wouldn't move. You know, you wouldn't be able to walk down the path, because you'd be enthralled by what's coming in. Right. So there's degrees of, you know, there's that, again, that shift, that change all the time, how much involvement there is, and so on. And so,
mhm,
you know, you can be blown away by watching your fingers do up your shoelaces, or you can not even notice that's happening. It's, you know, it's habit. Your fingers know how to do the shoelaces up, so you're not even thinking about it. You're somewhere else in your head, and your fingers just do it up. So you can, and everything in between. You know, it can be
yeah,
one or the other. You know, so the thing with the magic that comes with an actual interaction like that is that it's pretty intense, and it can be, you know, it uses a bit of energy. Let's put it that way. You say you couldn't live in it all the time, you know,
yeah,
but it's nice when it happens.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
It's tricky because the brain is so good. We've evolved in a way that's the perfection of the functioning of the brain is so good that we've got this thing that would be, even by today's standard, if we built a supercomputer to do what the brain could do, it would be a giant building, you know, multi-story building, and it would run on a huge amount of power, you know. And here we've got this brain that runs on 20 watts, and it's just capable of doing amazing things. And it's developed, this nature that it's developed is to be predictive, and it's an energy saving thing. So if it only needs a couple of bits of information to come up with that image of a tree, right? So just an impression of a bit of green in front of you, and you're out on the path, and it puts together the fact that you're on a path in a park or whatever, and there's that green, so it must be a tree. And that's all it takes. You know, two bits of information and a little bit of history, and it can come up with those things, and it means that it saves a lot of energy. So
Right.
we've got this amazingly good thing, this thing that is just mind-boggling effective, that also
Can you
does bad things. Go on.
Can you say that again? Because you know what we were talking about earlier about you know, the stories that come if, you know, if someone flips into panic and then there's a story, right? If you had a schematic of that which you just said, it would be a real simple way just to kind of bring up those points and then kind of like flip the panic over because you realize, oh, your brain's doing the efficient thing that it's been trained to do, you know?
Yeah,
So you said so you said you were talking about bits of information, like the brain is trained to predictive. So
predictive. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
predictive nature of the brain, yeah?
yeah.
It takes just a few bits of information and it puts together a story based on information. And it has nothing to do, doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the moment.
That's right. Yeah, the moment will probably have triggered it, but yes, and so it's
Yeah.
reminded of, or something along those lines, maybe. Yeah. The
Yes.
the
Yeah.
trick, though, what you're talking about would be that to get somebody out of the overwhelm state where they can have the thought of recognizing that that's their brain doing what it's later on after the fact, that's possible as well, but in the middle of it while it's happening they're unlikely to take notice of rational thoughts.
Actually, that's true. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
But that's what
Yeah.
I say afterwards. It's a good thing, with any time we get lost. And in um, a technique I used to use a lot with people in the beginning is whenever you get lost in thoughts, the time will come that you'll realize that you were lost in thoughts or not.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it doesn't matter because you don't even know it. But if it does, celebrate the moment when you recognize that you were lost in thoughts. And what you'll do is train the brain to come up with that recognition sooner. And eventually it'll start coming up with it before you get lost in thoughts. And the
Yeah.
consequence is you won't get lost in thoughts in those stories anyway. So
Mhm.
it's a way of training it. So that moment of recognition is a really big one to celebrate.
Mhm. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah. Life is funny. Yeah. Well, it's after 11 p.m. here,
Oh,
West
okay.
West Coast Canada. So
Well, thank you for being here, Charmaine. That was great. I
mhm.
really good feelings. Thank you. Mm.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Mhm. Mhm.
Bye.
Bye, Tammy.
Hey, Vince.
Mm. How's things been for you?
Um, I think maybe a mixture. A few moments here and there where I felt like I was in one of your stories, like standing by the sink, and suddenly I'm like, oh, I should have done this or should have done that, or I should be there. And I just started laughing hysterically. I'm like, I'm right here. Where should I be? Anyway. Um,
Don't downplay it. That's good stuff. You know, that is really, really relevant, isn't it? That there was this awareness kind of thing happening.
yeah. Um, and a lot of different triggers have come up, and I
Mhm.
tried like desperately to fish for a sentence that might be flying by, that might be from a meeting or something, that might tell me something to do, like let it all bubble up, or it's coming up to be released, or make space. Like I tried to, have a slogan to
Right. Okay. Well, let's find one for you. Let's do that. That's a good thing to do. Okay. And what comes to mind here is the word this. THIS exclamation mark.
hmm, yeah.
And it's bolded. It's only capitalized though. It's only got a capital T. And what does that word suggest for you? If you were to find yourself in that situation that you described, and you're desperately casting around looking for something to make the moment better, would that be a way of putting it?
Yeah, to not let it spiral out, but to put it in context of the process that I'm trying to be on,
Yeah.
and
Okay. Yeah. Right. So if when that process happens and the word this flies in from behind or beside you or from the front of you, I don't know, where would it come from? But this word has got wings and it flies in at your head level, at the level of your consciousness,
yeah.
and gives you something to focus on. That's what we're making here with this word. What does the word this conjure up for you?
This is what's here. You got to deal with it.
Okay, right. Okay. Yeah, I like the this is what's here part, and then you got to deal
Hmm.
with it. Didn't give me the same.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just stay with the first part for the moment because that's a much more literal thing, isn't it? Then you've got to deal with it. That's an added story,
Hmm.
right? Do you get that? Can you see that that's an added story?
Mm, it's like
It's
we can't avoid it. Like, so we got to deal with it.
Yeah, but all right. So what I'm trying to get at here, and this is a critical one. This is an important one. We're down to a much more subtle level here, but what I'm trying to get at is that this is what is doesn't have any value judgment. There is no morality about it. There is no opinion of its right, wrong, good, bad, any of that stuff. It is purely a description. Right? This is has no meaning. There's no any. If we get into what this means, we're off in storyland, right? Because this is what only what we can touch with our senses, with one of our five physical senses. So this has to be accessible by at least one of those senses. If it can't be accessed by a sense organ, then it's a story. Do you get that one? So,
Thinking is also a sense organ.
well, it's like a sense organ, yes. But let's just exclude thinking for the sake of this exercise now. Can you see that for something to fit in under the heading of this, it has to be accessible physically?
Okay. I
So
mean, to me, thoughts are, very, very present, even more than the physical. I have to like tell myself, well, it depends. If there's pain, then there's a lot of physical, but the thoughts are often there, but I guess the experience in total is kind of like a light bubbling up of panic that hasn't taken hold yet. You might describe it, but it's kind of simmering panic or quiet panic or just dysregulation, whatever you want to call it, just lightly bubbling in the body. And I could tell myself solace things like, um, no mistakes, this too is it, or something, if I remember those. If not, it's mostly this week been, it's good that it's coming up. It's coming up to be released. You're supposed to learn something. You don't have to figure it out. Just let it be. Make space around it, this kind of thing.
do you get
There's,
with that description? The it component is what I'm referring to with this, right?
mm-hmm,
And it has to be physical to fit in the category of this.
mm-hmm. So
Right?
I guess
So
it's a
we're
mixture
not going
because,
to include, we'll include the fact of a thought, but not what
mm-hmm,
the thought's about.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right. Because for me, it's a low grade simmer that's, let's say, 70% body, and then 30% says you're having a trigger attack, or or
Yeah.
you're triggered. You're never gonna, like, it's still there. It's been there all day. Okay, you're allowing it, but why is it still there? That type of thing of,
Yes.
it's
Well, how do
half mind telling me that I'm triggered and dysregulated and all this.
Yeah, yeah. So what we need to do here, the movement is in the direction of differentiating between what is actual and what is about what is actual,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the about stuff can only come from the mind. It originates in the mind, and it's about our interpretation of something.
Yeah.
Once we can get into the habit of separating those two, and this is a really big thing for you, because it's the conflation of those things that is responsible for so much of your unpleasant experiences, right? So it's that where you take something that is about something else and turn it into something itself. It turn it into something substantial that you react to, you respond to, and then you're off on a spiral of unpleasantness.
Yeah. I guess some kind of darker things have come up. People have thrown out some words about things that were pretty significant, um, and that are still like hidden in the recesses of my past or whatever. I don't know, all kinds of things that were just felt very dark or scary to deal with. And then the body kind of just has a bubbly kind of feeling throughout it. Um, and then I generally have a feeling to a little bit tense up and not allow that so much. But been able to more allow it, but is it like, so it is in response to what happened or words that were said. So so I shouldn't tell myself that it's in response to the words, or that I might need to deal with this, or should I speak to someone? Should I just say, well, the body reaction, and kind of try to divorce it from the words that were spoken and from what I feel it's alluding to?
Mm. Certainly that last one, what it's alluding to is added. It's what it's about stuff. So the body is simmering, you said. So how would you describe that in a more immediate way in terms of your experience? How would you
So
describe
right now,
simmering?
yeah. So right now, as I think about those things, I get waves of it in my body.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's
tell me
just,
about that. Tell me about the waves in your body. Whereabouts in your body, and how frequent are the waves? How big are they? How intense? What's their frequency?
um,
And are those waves composed of smaller waves?
to go into it, I have to kind of stop talking to you and like focus more on that kind of thing. In other words, I'm kind of half aware of speaking to you and half aware of the body. You want me to go more into the body or not very deeply? Just describe from here.
Um, no, you go into the body and describe. You'll describe it to yourself before you'll describe it out loud, probably. But just go into that and try and describe that sensation for me.
When I go into it here, it's very different than, so when I asked you the question or when I'm alone, it's like there's a bubbling. It kind of feels like drinking soda water. Sometimes if you drink soda water with too many bubbles and it kind of hurts. So that's kind of how it feels. Um, that there's like bubbles in my legs, or now it's in my arms and my back, and then there's waves of heat. And I kind of tense about like 10%, just a little bit, to stop sensation or stop it getting larger. When you ask me to go into it, maybe the edges kind of soften and then it goes into warm, bubbling heat or something.
Mm.
And it's more diffuse. And of course, as I've told you on meetings, like if I can go into it more and it'll start to relax and probably diffuse by the end of it. But alone, it kind of just stays as that like bubbling soda pop or something in the body.
Yeah.
A little
Okay.
bit painful and ominous. It has a tone of being ominous, like, oh God, you could fall into a full-fledged panic attack, that kind of thing.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Here's a tricky bit too. So that great, good description. I liked what I was hearing. So that was pretty much a description of what was happening in the body at a physical level. Right. Now also the ominous flavor that you experience, that also is a physical thing, right? But it's a tricky one, that one, because describing it as ominous and ominous tells me that there's a story associated with it, and the story is about a, a dreadful outcome of some
Yeah.
kind. Yeah. Right. So that moment so I I don't want to say ignore the ominous nature of it, but I do want to say recognize that when you use a word like anonymous, and it could be a multitude of other words, but when you use that's an emotion laden word, and it's telling you that you're drifting off away from the physical into storyland about it. Do you get what I mean about that?
Yeah, it's kind of like saying I'm in fear that it's going to take over, that I'll
Yes.
do
Yep.
something, or yeah.
Yeah. And you can see quite quickly how that is about some potential future. It's not nothing to do with what is. It's not this. It's not anything to do with this.
It's a little bit to do with it because it feels like the waves are getting stronger. And so I subtly clamp down on my muscles to kind of contain it. So that's kind of the feeling of ominous. It's like I'm not fully free because I have to be subtly containing this because it's waves that feel like they're about to get louder and louder. You know what I mean? It's like that. It feels like it's crescendoing, and I'm kind of
Yeah.
have to function normally and appear normally. I'm very good at it, and I can continue smiling and laughing and go to the store. But underneath, I'm like, oh my God, a tsunami's happening. I'm
Yeah.
stopping it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So one of the things that we're on the verge of discovering is that if you don't clamp down on it, what the story that has been threatening to happen won't necessarily happen at all. But that's something you have to discover rather than be told about. So no point in saying to you it won't happen. That just going to excite resistance to it. But the reality is that it's it it relies on the prediction of it happening for it to happen. So to discover that those two things are not tied together is something that we look forward to. We look for the opportunity to recognize. So at some point, the idea will turn up for you to not clamp down to try and control that just a little bit to see what happens. So do you get the flavor of an experiment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I already allow it to be, and I only clamp down 10%, but you're saying don't even
Yeah.
clamp down 10%, let it bubble.
Well, you're doing it. You're already doing what I was leading towards. So it really is a case of just how far you go. Right. So right. So next time, try 9%. Or if it's too difficult to find the difference between 10% and 9%, just try 5%. See what
Yeah.
happens. You're going to use less this time, or maybe, you'll go more next time. But essentially, what I'm wanting you to do is to explore the possibility that without clamping down, everything will be fine.
I guess when the sensations get bigger, the thoughts start to panic along with them and
Yes.
say, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, maybe I should deal
Yeah.
with this. Should I speak to someone? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And try to figure out my life again.
Yeah. So we want to adopt the attitude of an explorer in a totally foreign land. And so consequently, we don't know anything and we're looking at everything with fresh eyes. That kind of exploration is what we're looking for. We don't know what things will be like when you don't do all of the things that you've learned to do. What we want to do is discover what they're like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you that every part of me screams out that it's going to be okay without any of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff.
Yeah, I guess I can try. In other words, sometimes I think I need to be alone and lying down in order to fully relax the body and allow these things. But I can try also when I'm out and about because otherwise I'll end up in meditation 7 hours a day and I just don't have that kind of
Yeah,
time. But
no, you don't want to do that. And you don't need to do the whole body in one go. Start with just one hand,
mm, mm-hmm,
right? Or
mm-hmm.
on part of the body, just letting that one go. See if you can. I mean, that's really an interesting experiment on its own. See if you can
Mhm.
relax one shoulder and just focus on that one shoulder. And at a certain point, and you go, oh yeah, that feels pretty good. Then go to the other shoulder, but just one at a time. Don't try and do both shoulders all together.
Mhm.
It's it's not possible to put a statistical figure on the degree of credibility that familiarity brings with us. So because we've always felt this way, that feels safe and secure and friendly, and all of those kind of things all come along simply because it's been around for a long time.
Mhm.
The familiarity of it, and unfamiliar often feels a bit threatening or a bit dangerous or something, simply because we don't know. So
Yeah.
this is probably one of the biggest switches that we're talking about happening here, where you actually welcome and recognize the value in and feel good about not knowing.
Mhm.
So for the moment, and where you've come from, knowing gives you a sense of control and stability and so on. But it's an illusion. It's not actual. It just gives you that feeling, uh, because knowing's not really knowing anyway. We just call it knowing, but it's really just believing, isn't it? But we think we've got to know. It's important.
But what about being sensitive to other people's energies and moods and seeing patterns and things and being a little psychic, all these things that seem that they are tuned into reality?
Yeah, absolutely they
Should I
are.
discount them or?
No, no, definitely don't discount them. However, be really aware of um, how much you're relying on your interpretation of those things. Right? So that's another story. So, there's no question in my mind that those things exist. We read other people's body language all the time. There are cues that we've no idea about that we pick up on. And we have feelings about things. We interpret those feelings as well. And we can say, well, that's a good person or a trustworthy person or I like that person or whatever. Whereas you can say somebody else, oh, no, that wasn't good energy. Of course we pick up on that stuff. But you've got to remember that you can misinterpret those things as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be putting the bank, don't bet the sheep station.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we might have had a scare by a man with a handlebar moustache when we were a kid, and consequently, the rest of our life, we never feel comfortable around a man with a handlebar moustache. And we don't know why. Because we've forgotten about the original scare. And yet there it is, so we can say, oh, yeah, that's my intuition tells me he's not trustworthy. But it's not about him. It was about some other person in some other time. So we can overdo it as well really easily.
Yeah. I'm definitely aware of that. I think this process has brought me a lot of, I always did doubt and second guess myself, but this process has kind of brought that even to a head, especially like, I don't know, just I kind of second guess every move or every thought or every decision, because I'm always like, is this just me? Is it just a thought? So I kind of get a bit lost in my head of like, um, yeah, I think I brought it up last time too. Like I can't just act in a rational, sane way. I'm doubting and second guessing and wondering, is this just a thought, a feeling? Is it a sensation? Is it interpretation?
Mm.
Should I be near these people? Do I want to escape just because it's me? Like it gets a bit confusing in my head and stuff of what is what and what is
Yeah.
valid to act on. And
So let me just cycle back to what we were talking about earlier. Did you get what I was saying about if you can use one of your 5 physical senses to interact with it, then it's a thing, right? But if it's about that thing, it's a story. Now, we're not saying one's good or bad. We just want to be able to differentiate between the two. Right. And so what I'm saying to you now is that from what you were just saying, that we've already spoken about a brilliant test for separating those two things, and that is to ask yourself, can I interact using one of my physical senses with this thing? And if the answer is no, if I can't directly touch it, smell it, etc., then it's a story about something. I mean, that's pretty cut and dried, isn't it? I mean, I would love it if you found contradictions to that one. You find me something that you can't touch with one of your physical, you can't connect with using one of your physical 5 senses that is an actual thing.
Well, the sensations in my body don't feel like it's a physical sense. It seems like a thought to me. In other words, it's the
Okay.
same intangibility. Like it's not like tapping a rock. It's a sensation within myself, which is hard to sometimes maybe differentiate from a thought. I don't know. I can't explain that, but
Self, yeah. So here we'll just clarify this. Ask yourself, how do you know that that sensation is there? And of course, what's going to come to mind is I feel it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah. So that's using a physical sense,
okay,
sense of touch in this case, or a sense of sensation. Yeah. So that your nerve endings are excited, and that's how you know it exists. So it's a physical sense.
right.
So to say a sense of touch is not right. It's a sense of I don't know. I'm lost for words. What is it a sense of? Because touch seems, with touch for a start, if I'm going to do the touching, it's with my fingers. And if I'm going to be touched, I could be touched on anywhere on the body, but it's on the outside of the body. But yeah, it's that particular sense where the nerve endings get stimulated that I would call touch if it was there, but it's inside. So it's not touch, but it's still that same sense, isn't it? I
But
feel.
it really feels more ephemeral, more like a thought, but I don't know.
Um, okay, here's a good one then. Can you feel a thought?
To me, that's what a thought feels like, that bubbling in the body or whatever response. Like I have a thought or someone says a word and then those stuff arise. So it kind of feels like
Hmm.
an internal experience
Yeah.
of
Okay.
the flavor of that thought. I don't know.
Right. So now we start talking about feelings that happen as a result of a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the thought itself is only about things, so it's nothing actual in it, but we can respond to that with a distinct sensation. And so
Yeah.
here's one that you might have heard me say before, but a feeling is a sensation with stories hanging off it. Right? So the sensation that we associate with fear or excitement is very much the same sensation. Right? Of course, there are variations, but just for the sake of this example, the same sensation is excitement or fear. Right? and it's decided to be excitement if we tell it this story, and it's decided to be fear if we tell it that story.
Yeah.
Whichever one is associated with it is what gives it that kind of experience. So what we're talking about is the actual sensation before we add the story to it that turns it into an emotion. Right. So same deal with what you experience as thoughts in terms of the physical in the body. Is that before or after the story got added to the sensation? So that, you don't answer that. I mean, of course, you can't. I mean, you've got to find something in real time to know about that. But essentially, the idea is that if we go a little bit further and say the origin of a sensation, or can the origin be touched or be accessed by one of those five physical senses? So when we get to emotions, it gets a lot trickier to say where it come from. Right? But almost never
Uh,
is an emotion going to turn up as a result of one of the five physical senses being stimulated. It's the other way around.
It's a result of words, usually to me,
Yeah,
unless it's a result of physical stuff. Like I walk into a room and people's energies or people bump into me in the elevator. In other words, either it's a physical thing, a fear in relation to a physical happening, or the words that people said or I read or I thought.
yeah. So would it be clear to you that when you respond to the words, you're responding to your interpretation of their words, and that's involves added stories about what those words mean, what you think they mean, not what they actually mean, what you think they mean. They could be said with a certain meaning and you interpret them in a different way, and then you respond to your interpretation always. So what I'm saying is, when you talk about people's energies, that doesn't cut it for this exercise. Right. I'm not saying that they don't exist, and I'm not saying, don't take any notice of them. But what I am saying is, for this exercise, that's going too far, right? Because you don't know about those energies. You can't measure them. You can't. What we're talking about is something much more obvious in terms of what gets the physical senses activated. It's a touch, it's a smell, it's a sight, it's a sound, etc. You know what I mean? Then people's energies is just too insubstantial to qualify for this particular exercise. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. So once,
But even,
yeah, go
sorry,
on. There you go.
even with things happening, it's again going to be my conditioning and my interpretation of those happenings that's going to cause the sensations in my body, right?
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Yes, yes.
so it's always, in other words, someone else might not be afraid if a bunch of thugs walk towards them at night with a knife, or
Exactly.
if a snarling dog ran towards them.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you could say there's never valid reason to be afraid or worried. In other words, but my body does get afraid or worried.
No, no, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say that at all. Not at all. No. Depends on, I don't know the circumstances that you live in, but where I live, it would be, I don't remember the last time I was bitten by a dog, if ever. Yes, I do remember now. It's probably about 60 years ago when I had a juice run, and I used to deliver juice to people, and a dog bit me. I remember that now. It was a corgi. But as I said, that was about 60 years ago. So, yeah. But that doesn't mean if a dog was running towards me, snarling and growling and being aggressive, I wouldn't feel afraid. Of course I would. but I wouldn't imagine a dog is going to turn into a snarling, aggressive, charging animal every time I see it.
Right. No, it happens to me pretty often. Just the other day, I went to visit my sister, and this dog just heard me and started barking from outside. And she goes, "Oh, he never barks or whatever." And then we walked into the building, and he started running down the stairs towards me, barking. So I screeched kind of involuntarily, and the woman had to like call him back. So this happens to me quite often. Dogs either like love me or charge at me. I don't know, but
Yeah, I get that. Now, you know, chances are that if you were relaxed and that you didn't scream when that dog come running down the stairs barking at you, by the time the dog got there, it would probably be wagging its tail and wanting to be patted on the head.
you
Or
think?
it might have run up and bit you on the arm. Who knows? But I mean, yeah. But
We
I mean, a dog, even more so than other people, is going to respond to pheromones, you know, smells that you put out. And the smell of fear, of course, is always a bit provocative for animals at that level. Eh?
we were we just had breakfast, my wife and I. We were talking. This links into. I didn't catch the beginning part of this, but prior to that, we were talking about agency. We were here and free will, that sort of thing. That's a bit of a. We had these chats over breakfast, and we were saying that she was saying that the one thing that she learned, regardless of whether it's to do with agency or free will, is it at least seems that we have the ability to choose how we respond to events. And she said if it even ended there, that would be great, you know. So the rest, you know, whether that was really chosen or not for her is not an issue. But she's scared of dogs. She's scared of dogs. That's why it prompted me to come in partly. And there was an event when we were first married, but she witnessed something, and it's got more manageable. But she just accepts that currently that's the way it is, rather than saying after all these years, you know.
Mm.
So there's no story. It's just the fact that she does, and she knows why she does, but she hasn't, like I used to do, look at every possible technique under the sun just to actually get rid of it, you know, push it away. Um, so, but I don't. I'm neutral about dogs. I mean, sometimes I've been swayed by her commentaries about them, and thought, well, yeah, they're a bit. And I thought, no, I'm just agreeing because I'm agreeing, but I don't actually agree. I feel kind of neutral about them. I mean, we have a cat, but that's beside the point.
Mm.
Um, I've digressed a bit, but I jokingly said I wanted to get her on the call to. She's got about the free will thing, but I said because if I say what you said, I might get one part wrong because memory is bad, and that would be it. You'd love that, wouldn't you? Not you, her.
Mm.
But it is interesting having these things because it's like, yeah, I would say if I didn't fully grok, feel, whatever, that I don't have agency. The one thing that I benefited from, like her, from all these groups who've been to that sort of thing, is that about perception and projection and that sort of thing, is that we at least seem to have the ability to choose how to respond or react to something. We are not at the effect of anything. Okay, if you get hit, it hurts. You know, no one's disputing the physical, event,
Mm.
but we do, even with pain. I mean, Vince the other day was talking about the pain he had when he was golfing in your calf or ankle or something. You
Mm.
said, oh, yeah, that, and I was going to say trained. Over time, I've learned through repetition to do that sort of thing. I haven't mastered anything because to me, that means, that could mean, that's that sorted, like a skill I've mastered. I just mean it's this noticing that you were talking with Charmaine about, that, but without a story, it ends there. That fill in the blank or not sensation at a push. Anyway, that was my breakfast report.
Next.
What did you mean by, oh, that? What were you referring to? That you've trained yourself to what?
Oh, okay. So if I have, okay, here's an example. Let's think of a good one. It's giving things meaning. This is really what it boils down to. And then the seed of a story is it starts to sprout because you water it. So I had a pain, I don't even know where it was and I can't remember, but I'd read somewhere that under these conditions and at this age, if you get a pain there, wherever there was, you should worry. You know these things you see on YouTube. Should I be worried? No, you just told me I should. So it was one of those, and I thought, oh, what if it's this? And so what I'm saying is, through habit or new habit, if you want to call it that, I've learned to say, oh, that, and then no story. Occasionally, yes, I'm not immune to it 100%, but with that sort of thing, it's usually, okay. I mean, I'm not, if something persisted and it was clear, or not even if I intuitively, if you want to call it that, got prompted to do something, I would, but not out of a story about, well, I wonder what it says I wonder what AI says about that. That's what I meant by that. Oh, that. It's an event. It's an arising.
Yeah. So would you say it's a reference to something previously recognized?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and labeled and storied.
Yeah, yeah. And it's
Yeah.
and
Oh, for sure.
part of
It could not be. It could not be. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's
It has to be
a
there. Yeah.
dismissal in it as well.
Say again, sorry.
There's a dismissal in it.
How do you mean?
Well,
Like a
it's
denial, or?
no, not a denial so much, but a flicking away. I'm not going to.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. You notice it, yeah, but you
Yeah,
don't.
I'm not going to get involved in it. It's no need
Yeah,
to.
I won't take that any further. Yeah, yeah. And it could be anything. It could be a comment from something. It's like there are numerous things that you're just not. Either you're not triggered or as triggered. It's like a slight, and then it's gone. And increment. For me, it happens over apparently over time. But it's yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I'm
What
not.
happens over time?
Well, it seems at times involved, but let's say it is incrementally over time, the reactivity to these events diminishes, or in certain cases is really not there. Others, they'll be more fundamental, like if something is a long-held belief that's been embedded from a very early age, I think those are trickier. I could be wrong, and everyone's different, but those tend, I think, to be more. I can't even say that. I don't know. In my case, is all I can say. There've been a few tricky ones there, but even they have diminished. So yeah.
Yeah. So part of what we could say about that is that there's a deconditioning, unconditioning, or
Yeah.
learning going on
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why for me it's been important to, otherwise it's bypassing, which I picked up during my Advaita Vedanta days, actually, as if that all you needed to do was say, oh, that isn't me, who is the one who's experiencing this, as if it was an instant remedy, but it isn't. I haven't experienced that as being the case.
Yeah.
One has to be open, I think, and just honest with oneself where one's at.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. I don't think Tammy was. I don't know what Tammy was talking. She wasn't addressing that. That's just an aside. But it's been vital for me to notice that for sure.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm hearing three things. I'm hearing one, you came on to say, my wife is still afraid of dogs, and maybe that's, an acceptance that, if that's where my body is or my mind is, and just maybe accept
Yeah,
it while it's there for a
yeah,
while instead of trying to fight so
yeah,
much to get away with it. And I'm also hearing that that for you, stories have diminished over time. In other words, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and there's some things that took longer, but that
that
it seems to been over time a diminishment. So it's
that's
really
true. Yeah,
helpful and encouraging. And I think also
yeah.
that's what you've been saying, Vince, as well, that maybe it's a process or something. So I guess what I'll take is, sorry, Tim, were you going to say something?
No, I was just adjusting my hearing
uh,
appliance.
okay. Yeah,
Mm.
I think it's been a lot of discomfort here as different things from my past or present have come up very strongly. I think for me, the two big triggers, like for you, you said it's childhood beliefs. I think for me, it's stuff to do with my body, because for years I've had a lot of pain and I was told it's nothing. And then suddenly I've been told, oh my gosh, you have serious illnesses. So it's like, and then every time I go to the doctor, you never know what you'll be told. Sometimes they're like, oh, it's nothing. And then a few years later, they're like, oh my God, why didn't you come in sooner? Now you've built up tons of issues. So it's very, very confusing, the whole process. And I never know if it's an emergency or nothing. So when symptoms arise all the time, I don't know if it's part of chronic illness or something to be scared of or not. So that triggers a lot of worry and fear. But even there, I've been trying to a little bit tone it down. If not right away, then after I've dealt with it or before I've called someone. It's been very confusing. I call doctors and they haven't been good, or blood tests have come back totally wrong and I have to redo them. So it's not even clear cut there. It's always very up in the air. And so I guess the stories, a little bit, maybe 10%, 20%, I'm trying to let them go occasionally as part of that day when I realize it. And the other thing is, well, just out on the street and people and dogs, as I was saying. And the third thing, I guess, is stuff from my past that I haven't fully dealt with, or that still triggers me, or thoughts about my life, how it's totally a wreck and I should be different or whatever. So those are three things that still really get me activated, because I'm not sure if there's something that's to be done and how much of a danger there is. But it's good to be here and hear you all. And I guess I've been feeling a bit hopeful, because there are more, some light moments, or moments where I laugh at something, or moments where a panic will about to be swelling up and I'll just collapse it with a noticing. Um, or one of those things like, well, maybe not, or, anything that you guys have said now. And then other times where it's just simmering all day and I can't let go of the discomfort. And so I'll try the, tool of maybe 5% less or 1% less, not demanding that it release right away. But yeah, there still is a lot of wondering about whether I need to deal with these triggers from the past, or like discuss it with someone, um, or about the dog thing. When will that go away? And why have I learned? Or like, why isn't my life already okay? Or stuff with the physical stuff. So there still are stuff that come up quite strongly, but I guess not to expect that I'll be dissolved of all of these things instantaneously, I guess, which is quite annoying. I'm like, I'm reasonably bright. Let's go. I'm dedicated. Come on. Let's come on, shape up, Tammy. What's up? But yeah.
I used to really give myself a hard time in the way that you seem to be describing, and I wished that someone would that there was a done point. This is the whole myth we're sold, whether it's overtly or implicitly. And a lot of these teachings I've noticed, and it keeps them coming back. It kept me coming back. It's a good anyway. Let's not go on that route. But
Have you seen through the self thing?
yeah, I would say, if you're talking about in the Feta model, one and largely two, but
Just say yes, Tim.
yes,
Oh, I don't
Tim.
know what the fetters
Yes,
are, so
Tammy,
that
and
doesn't.
oh, sorry. Okay, so yeah, I would say I'm awake, if you want to say that.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, but and not but. The great thing is that I think the approach Vince is inviting or suggesting of it's not no way a question of being done. I mean, it's like I can't imagine now. I don't even know what an endpoint would look like or even mean. It seems like an insanity now, ridiculous. Like lots of the things I used to believe that were even, I thought, close to truth seem really mad now. If I look back, it is actually laughable. Unless I have a story about that it wasn't, and oh, you wasted time. And that was another thing about, I think you mentioned, I don't know how you put it. No, I can't remember what you said actually, but this thing about yeah, implying time and how long will it be until fill in the blank or whatever. And put simply, as someone did the other day, it's like this sounds like a bit of a Byron Katie thing about loving what is, but the cause of suffering is disagreeing with what's here now. You know, in other words, just being with it as it is.
Yeah, even more.
If to really put it, no, go on.
I was going to say, I just need to jump in with that one. Even more insane is saying I disagree with my interpretation of what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think this thing about being kind to yourself, even if you don't have to be pedantic about it, not that you are, but I was about, oh, but this is the imagined self you're being kind to and all that shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's like, yes, be gentle and like yeah, compassionate with yourself. Like, because there isn't a there yet, you are where you are. And you've mentioned, I think the percentages you gave are small, apparently, but that the size doesn't matter. You've noticed that there are times when you are at least less reactive. Is that true? Is that what you were saying, Tammy?
Yeah, I would say so. I
Here and
mean, I
there,
always
yeah.
doubt it. And I say, I've always had good days and bad days. So, do I know if I'm actually progressing or if, I really
Yeah.
am seeing a bit more and just with the encouragement also of the group and like just being more aware of it and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
am I having more times where I can collapse it? And I think so, but who knows? Maybe I'm just deluding myself and having the same ups and downs as every time. But
Yeah. It used to make me laugh, it still does, when people say, what kind of a week have you had? As if you can give a summary in one, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
good. But there have been moments every day, within every hour, where everything as it is anyway is in flux, is the motion, is the movement.
Yeah.
So all these ideas, I'm not saying, I know it's a figure of speech. It's like you will find, I'm sure, that if you review even half a day, and you can gradually make it smaller, that there will be moments, possibly many moments, where you haven't felt as quotes bad as you thought or as you once had felt. I found mind thinking rather is really tricky like that, because there's this thing, isn't there, apparently called negative bias, which is hardwired for sort of looking for danger on the wherever it is, prairie, wherever you are. And I don't know, that's a theory, but even so, we seem to be survival wired, and that's part of it, but and then we become hyper vigilant because of other nonsense that happens, like all these alerts we get on our phones. Oh, what's that? Oh, someone's calling me. Rather than, oh, it's a call. What's that noise? We become more wired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying lots of things happen and our mind might not notice that we're progressing, you mean?
Absolutely. Or and it might, it might tell us the opposite because we're not noticing that. It will pick up by default, and I think in a lot of cases, of the time zone, it seems shitty
Yeah.
or not as we wanted, or you know. It's like I've got a friend. he 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 said, "Oh, I've had a really bad day." He usually says that. That's his opener. I said, "Okay," and then we have a chat, and he discovers that he didn't really have a bad day. He'd had an argument with his daughter in the morning, and he'd called that having a bad day.
Mm.
But he actually, when I've asked him, I said, "How long did you really feel bad about the result of that call?" He said, "Oh, I don't know. I went and played guitar about an hour later." I said, "Did you enjoy that?" "Oh yeah, I was, you know." So you haven't been had a shitty day. You've had an interlude or an hour or two, and I think that's fairly common. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
where we put our, I don't know, attention, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, we can remember. Here's an interesting one that I've sort of discovered that, especially, well, we're past it this time of year now, but a month ago, we could wake up and it'd be really cold in the morning, and then the day gets quite good and gets quite warm, quite pleasant in the middle of the day, and I realise that when I'm in the cold of the morning, I can't imagine what it was going to be like when it feels warm. And then when I get to the middle of the day, you know what? I can't remember what it felt like to be cold in the morning. I could remember that it was cold, but I
Yeah,
can't remember what it actually felt like.
yeah, that's a good point.
Is it a function of short-term memory or something like that? I don't know, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
really weird. And yet, when we say, "Oh, I definitely felt cold," but we're just reporting on the memory that it was that it happened, not what it felt like. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, and I guess I'm always looking for evidence of what's still left to be done, or what, in other
Yeah,
words, where I still need to fix, or where I still,
yeah.
rather
Tammy,
than
you've
Can
got
you?
celebrating.
so much energy available to you when you're not just bleeding away 80% of your energy on this kind of stuff. That you're just going to be bouncing out of your skin with energy because
There is.
you won't be using it on all this unnecessary stuff.
Yeah.
So, Tammy, can I ask you a question? What would the criteria be? What would represent? I won't use the phrase "being done," but what might it look like when things were quotes better in your life? Just out of
So
curiosity.
when I come to these meetings, the definition becomes to me to realize that there's no separate self, that everything is one. I don't know what these things mean. I'm just repeating words. But for myself, it would be as a person. In other words, I'm looking for, sorry, I guess equanimity, a sense of control or agency. And that doesn't mean necessarily, in other words, I'm looking for peace however I can find it. In other words, I would love to be able to control, in other words, it's a bit of a long, it's like I'm willing to find it in whatever way it would present. So if I tried all these different ways on the internet, right, there's like Joe Dispenza, or like these you can manifest stuff,
All right.
or if you just
Yeah.
meditate you
Yeah.
can become the perfect person. There's
Yeah.
that type of stuff of like, yes, you can ascend to the heights of bliss, keep on ascending, don't go up, you're negative, up there, you're negative, up, go higher. There's that type of thing. And then there's a
Mm,
type of thing of, pray or have intention and things will manifest, and have patience and be like a stoic good person. And then there's be kind to others, like all the ways that I've tried.
mm,
Then pray, intention, life
mm,
coaching, and then there's okay, so just let it go, nothing matters, or nothing's the truth. I'm trying however I can to be okay in the moment, and to have something that will reliably work for me, that I don't feel I'm going to spiral out of control into neediness, hysteria, hypervigilance, overwhelming panic, terror about my life, that either my life will get better, so I'll, Tony Robbins and I'll be a billionaire, like be on that kind of track, or I'll be on a track of like nothing matters and I'm always serene. Oh, someone bumped into me. Oh, it's just God laughing. You know what I mean? Like some kind of just always at peace. Somehow I'll be at peace, either because life got so amazing that I'm never worried because I have $1 billion, or because I have strategies that no matter what happens, I'm at peace and at laughter and I hand it to God and I just, whatever it is, somehow
Yeah.
I need to find a way to be okay because my mind and body keep going berserk with wildly different notions of what life is, what value is, what meaning is, and what a meaningful life is. I came here with intense pressure of like, life is precious, make use of it, you're wasting your life, figure out what won't be wasting your life and then do that, but you're not succeeding. Just intense craziness. Which didn't seem like craziness. It seemed like it's prodding me to make use of this precious life and either become enlightened or become perfect, like something. Use this time that I'm wasting my life, and I haven't gotten married, and I'm don't have some huge career. I kind of had a lot of panic in my life and kind of just started retracting from my life. I was very, very active and started drawing away because I was in so much panic that it wasn't worth it, all my achievements. And so I was like, and right now I moved out and I live by myself, and I'm trying to, and then that didn't work either, being in meditation 5 hours a day, even lying on the floor trying to calm this nervous system. It just would barely work, and maybe after hours of trying to calm it, it would be calm, and then boop, the doorbell would ring and I'm in hypervigilance again. So just somehow trying to find a way to reliably feel not afraid, at peace, that no matter what happens, I'm good, that I'm content with what this life is, what I am. Like I'm not constantly in questions in my mind and in anxiety in the body, and that I can feel nothing can challenge me. No matter what, I know that either this is it, or I'm not a person, or there's meaning to suffering, or this is what God wants, something that will allow me peace. Are you sorry you
What?
asked?
No. The reason I was smiling occasionally is because there are very few things you mentioned that I haven't experienced. I haven't been. I thank God have not. Thank whoever, whatever. I have not been to a Tony Robbins seminar, but I've done things like that. The forum, whatever it's called now, landmark. I've done lots of things, and I've done. I only want to do God's will. That's all. I can't tell you, like over 35 years, and it's almost become a cliche. But the one thing that worked is when, through despair, and you could call it whatever you want, everything being conspiring for it to happen, is that I realized, only with a few moments of doubt, that all that I've been doing, all this seeking, had assumed a separate self called Tim. It is that simple. I know it's easy for me to sit here, and I'm not, as I said earlier, it's not that I don't get triggered by stuff. I mean, I almost got triggered by the free will breakfast conversation, which is not, trigger's too strong a word. But, that, anything can happen, but that doesn't matter, because it doesn't say anything. It doesn't mean I failed. I used to have this thing about all the shoulds that a lot of these paths say. Here are some signs that mean that you're doing this right. This will never happen. You'll have more money. Abundance means this. Are you having abundance thoughts? Okay, it's to do with generosity. So you could tithe. All this on and on. I'm still quite broke. Not because I tithed all my money away, by the way. I'm not broke, but that has ceased to be an issue. So that the biggies were to do with abundance, whatever that means to you. And am I wasting my time? Surely God has a purpose for me. you know,
mhm.
and then trying to fit all that I knew that I thought were my skills, my strengths, which there seemed to be only a couple of, if that many, trying to sort of finesse all that into something that I, Tim, imagined would fit the bill. Surely that if I was doing God's will, he'd use my musical talents, mediocre-ish as they whatever they might be. I'm not a virtuoso. Surely that must be a channel. Or surely, you know, I've worked with people. Surely I should be a full-time counselor and all this bullshit. And the great thing was that none of them panned out, really. And one did, but I didn't have anything to do with it. I met a bloke on the bus I used to be in a band with. He said, "Oh, we're starting up a voiceover agency." So that, but I wasn't looking for that. I mean, I thought people said, "Oh, you should do something." But I just met him on a bus on the way to our son's school meeting with a teacher. You know, there was no, you know, I couldn't have made that up. So what am I going on about? Yeah, so the basic thing is that the key for me was just completely, and it just happened. It's not, I couldn't think, I couldn't imagine when it would happen. It just did after 35 years of really getting, if that's the phrase to use, that Tim and whatever happened is a story. It's that simple. And I know that might,
Why
anyway.
is it not, why does it, well, I don't want to make it bother you again, but why does it not bother you that you never used your music or your counseling? In other words, I still have like those dreams of like, maybe that will make life what it should be or meaningful, or that why do I have those abilities if I can't use them? That's also a big one for me. How do you not have those?
I just don't,
Because
because the whole, it's like a house of cards collapsing. It became mad. It became like a madness that I've been going through. Like someone had, like a hypnotherapist had sort of said, okay, when I click my fingers, you will no longer imagine that you should be doing X, Y, Z like that. And it wasn't that then I was like Eckhart Tolle, apparently liberated, lying on a park bench in London.
Mhm,
But it was this kind of, oh, that was nuts.
mhm.
And yes, I guess the second fatal thing is that there were moments of doubt. I thought, well, maybe if there were a few maybes that came in, but they didn't stay because, fortunately, I have people on the same page I've known for a while who said no, or they didn't say no. They said, "Are you sure?" I said, "No, that's nonsense, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, that was just another thought, you know." Hmm. Yeah.
I guess I kind of feel like I'm in between stage now. It's like I'm getting a little older and I'm realizing I don't have the same energy to throw at those dreams, kind of. And I realize
Yeah.
what a cost they have to try and force them. And on the other hand, when they do happen, like when I joined an orchestra for a semester, when I played at my brother's wedding for hundreds of people, these things were highlights that brought so much joy and togetherness and such beautiful moments. It was like sublime, but
Mm.
reaching for them involves so much struggle, and like, but letting go of them is letting go of those sublime moments as well, those creative gorgeous moments. And so it's a huge struggle. But what you said about the collapsing, how did you go about that, or where can I travel to have that collapse? Like where does that happen? Like
So I can't tell you. I mean, I can't tell you for you, obviously. And on those musical highlights, I've had those too, but there weren't that many. But they're laughable as well now. The last thing I did of note was I sang some jazz standards in a pub in South London, and there were about 8 people in the audience. And then I knew it wasn't because there were 8 people in the audience. I thought, this is ridiculous.
mm,
It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's just like it became really, really funny thinking back.
mhm,
It's almost like one of those movies where, I don't know, it's just like a movie. But to answer your question about, sorry, what was the question?
I guess you
About
had said two
what
things.
can you
had
do
said that
to,
it's,
yeah,
yeah, you had said two things. You had said it's a gradual lessening of the triggers, and you also
yeah,
said, well, three things. And then you said there's no end point. And then you said there
right.
was a certain end point when things collapsed.
Oh,
And then I said, how did the collapse happen?
okay. Well, that was an end of seeking. You could call it an end of seeking and an end of doubt. But as far as ongoing
But you still
events,
have triggers that get less and less
yeah,
intense.
yes.
So why does that continue if everything collapsed?
Okay, well, to reiterate or to repeat, to be clear, that the seeking collapsed, the looking for remedies, quick fixes, shortcuts, um, that sort of thing disappeared. If you call that an endpoint, it's not the ideal. Well, it is. It's the end of seeking, yeah.
Because you were saying you could relate to a lot of the points that I said, and you tried them, and now they all seem.
Yeah, almost everything you listed about. I've mentioned a couple, like what does God want me to do, and should I do a self-improvement seminar, life coaching, all these things is what I meant. I could relate that in the story of Tim, could relate to those having happened here. And in the end becoming like nothing, like, so what? Not that I must say, not that in some of those, there wasn't, if you like, oh, how can I put it?
Value.
Sorry?
Value.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because you could say there's value in everything. Well, there is value in everything. Even the shitty stuff is, and sometimes more valuable, actually. Yeah, because you learn. Sorry, I learned more from that, I think, about what didn't seem to be cutting it anymore.
So you realized that nothing was cutting it, and then everything collapsed, or how would you say it happened?
Yeah, it just became like how can I put it, really? Okay, so if I was watching a movie of Tim's life in a cinema, it's like when they have the credit. I'm trying to think of a decent metaphor, but can't. It's like when they fade to black sometimes, or it's a dissolve at the end. It didn't. It all became blurry. It's not like the curtain closed and I couldn't access anything from there. Although I got a very poor memory anyway. It's like it had no charge to it or meaning. The meaning disappeared. And that didn't mean that I didn't feel stuff about, like, when I picked up our first child, when it was born, I get a feeling about that. And then, that's still there. But I don't have a story about, oh, then I went and got a bottle of champagne or really. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear the thing about less charge, and I have that experience in micro, in general, of those kind of moments of things collapsing or not having to erupt into a story, but just like a thought, and then it just collapses and I go on with my day. And I guess the last two questions I would ask you is, how do you think that happened? Like, what did you do to that preempted that? And also, how do you feel about what's happening right now? Are you a person talking to a person? Like, what is your experience in this moment?
To answer the first bit, you could use the phrase causes and conditions, or whatever parallel term you use, conspired, unfolded for that to happen for me, to me. I don't even know how to put that. And am I
So what
talking
did
to
you
a...
do?
Sorry?
What did you do?
Whatever I did or didn't do. What I mean is every single thing I did or didn't do.
The red
And
pill.
other-
That's what she
and the-
wants.
sorry, okay, the red pill and the butterfly flapping its wings and that and yeah, all of
But
it.
like, did you do a ton of meetings or meditations? Like, I don't know. Did you
I
obsess
can,
or not
okay.
obsess? Did you eat
How long
ice
have you
cream?
got?
I don't know. Tell me.
Yeah, I still eat ice cream. But I prefer vanilla over chocolate. I think Vince is the opposite. It's
Oh,
just a
no.
personal taste. I've done lots of things. I mean, if I gave you, I've like you, I've done lots of different things, and I can't know what or wasn't helpful or not helpful, because in essence, it was all helpful, if you want to put it that way, because it had to be. I mean, it just happened. Does that make any sense? And it wasn't linear either. I realized that. I used to be quite linear in the way I looked at things. Right, now this is sorted out. I can do that. Now I'm frightened of that, but I'm not now. But then there's this, like a checklist of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
As if I was in charge of that.
You don't think that your intensity to resolve it brought about the resolving? You're saying I'm not in charge, so even the intensity is given
Okay.
us, right? The fact that I'm here is.
Ever since I was 15, I've been interested in this sort of thing. Okay, whatever you call that. So when I was 15, I was reading stuff about the human potential movement. I became a Rosicrucian when I was 18. All this stuff. For some reason, I've always been into weird stuff, astrology, you name it. Yeah, so I have. I mean, there've been times when I forgot. I got like pissed for abused alcohol for about 7 years. Okay, and even then, it wasn't. That's what I was saying. It wasn't all like, and that's not literal. I didn't live in a pub for 7 years, clearly, but my life was coloured by that for 7 years. Okay, then after that period, I'll keep this brief because I'll just go on. But after that period, I had a kind of awakening of sorts, and then picked up, I guess, where I seemed to have left off in my late teens, and then went through all these other seeking areas of seeking, that some of which you've outlined, but I can't. And I'm now 69, so that at one point, but I thought I better hurry up because I had this thing about NDEs and life reviews and reincarnation and all that. You make sure your slate's as clean as possible before you drop the body and all that. That was a big one, because that conditioning, that karma or guilt, go to heaven stuff is really deeply embedded in us, I think. I've digressed.
No, you haven't. You're doing well.
So Tammy, what do you say?
So you were, and then you had a small awakening after those 7 years, and then you were just going to finish your story and then tell me if you're a person now, and I'm a person. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't deny that you're there and I'm listening to you, because otherwise I would go back into my sort of extreme non-duality days of, no, there's no person there. And it's just like, yeah, on one level, but please, we're here on a Zoom call.
So what's different?
From when to when? What to what?
From how you see this Zoom call and how I see it.
I have no idea. I don't know how Vince sees it. I don't know how Jed sees it. I really don't know.
Or how you would have seen it before.
I can't. Oh, okay. If in the seeking days, I would have thought, what could I, Tim, get out of this call? And is there a better call? Is there another Vince equivalent, near equivalent, or better on the block? Oh, this bloke's saying this about that, or she's saying this, and they have X followers and all that bullshit. That's what would have been different. That's one thing. If we're talking about Zoom calls or that type of thing. The underlying problem, if you like, being the seeking, the not enough, not it, incomplete, not there, not there.
So what was the end of your story? How did that drop away?
I don't know.
Mm.
It's not ended.
It's what, Vince?
It's not ended. His story is still going.
Yeah, there's a movie, isn't there? The Never-Ending Story.
Mm.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, it
I'm
still is.
having this little scenario playing in my head now, and it's when you front up to God on your way into heaven, Tammy. So here you are at the pearly gates, and God's standing up there behind his lectern, and you're in front, and you're saying to him, "Oh God, I didn't live up to my potential. I'm sorry. I should have done." And God saying, "Quiet, my child. I sent you down there to experience what it was like being Tammy. And you're telling me this rubbish about potential? Shut up." That's my enactment of God.
Yeah, I've just I just posted a poem there from Hafiz. I don't know if you know Hafiz,
Yeah, yeah. The
Persian.
Sufi poet, yeah.
Yeah, Sufi
Persian,
poet.
sorry. Yeah.
It seems to
Oh, you
be.
put it in here, right?
Put it on the chat there. It's.
Right.
I found it useful when those
Should be.
questions come up.
This is so appropriate. It's great. You're going to read it out? Oh, everyone can read it. You don't need to read it out. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. Particularly the last two lines. Even if it's a story, and it doesn't matter,
Yep.
but it's a good one.
Yeah, one of my things through my seeking days was I had a period where I was into a Jane Roberts character called
Oh,
Seth.
Seth. Yeah, I've been there.
Seth had a
Yeah.
big part to play for me. And he said this story about, what God is, one way to look at this is to say that what God has done is he has I don't know how to put it, used bits of himself to become every person that's ever been on earth, and every animal that's ever been on earth, and every plant that's ever been. And so he's a junkie. God is a junkie, and he wants to experience. He's an experience junkie, and he wants to experience the widest possible variations of everything that can possibly be. And you're just one of those variations, and he loves you exactly the way you are because you're giving him that experience that nobody else has given him.
But why couldn't I be the Queen of England experience?
Well, because you chose the
You
Tammy.
wouldn't want to be. Count yourself lucky
No, I
that
wouldn't.
you've
I
not
really
been any of
wouldn't.
our
But
royalty at all.
yeah, no, sorry I haven't
Sorry.
responded for the last minute. I was just crying hysterically since you started talking, Vince. But yeah. Wow, that was very touching, all of you. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I repeat myself here, but that's fine. I don't mind doing that. And that is that when the thought turned up for me, and I don't remember when it was, but sometime after waking up, that said, I should have woken up back when I was 15 instead of when I was 65. And then I thought, well, why 15? Why not 14? Why not 12? Why not 8? Why wasn't I born awake and stayed awake my whole life, And of course, the ridiculous nature of that was that there was a lot to learn and a lot to experience. And it I'm a slow learner, and it took me 45 years to to reach that point where something happened. So really, it's become very obvious to me that I had to experience everything, and I can't even remember what most of that was. Like 65 years of actively seeking. I have tried literally everything, and yet there's still a million things I didn't get to try. But I tried so many things, and I reckon that every single moment of every single one of those was necessary to culminate in a happening when it happened and how it happened and all the rest of it. And there's a lot of psychic stuff in there too about, just why did the energies of the planet or the universe line up when they did, when it happened? How did that happen? How did that bloke come into my life that delivered that one line to me, and then I've never spoken to him since, and there you go. But where did he come from? How did that happen? I don't know. How did I get up in your life? I've no idea. Do you? Have you? It was just bloody luck, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, "Oh, why am I not taller or more handsome or better at tennis or
Exactly.
or got
Yeah,
nicer ears?" And it's
yeah.
it's a kind of
I
thing that at some point you just gotta accept it, haven't you?
I
Really?
can remember when I was a kid, and I was probably about 12 years old, and I was looking in the mirror in the house at Unanderra where I was brought up, and I was going, "Why, God, why haven't I got a dimple in my chin like Superman has?" Oh, that was serious. That was, yeah.
Yeah.
So eventually, I mean, I guess at one point I realized that, if God or whatever makes rain, a lot of it falls on the pavement. Not all of it goes to make a tree flower. And it's kind of like, all our musical talents or all our other abilities that don't come to fruition, it kind of seems like a waste, or any kind of suffering in the world. It still kind of bugs me. Like, why is there waste? There's beautiful babies that are born and then they end up being grumpy people who are trained and conditioned to look at life so poorly. My nephew is growing up near me now. He's 3, and his twin siblings are 1.5. And I watch how they're being raised and conditioned to be insensitive and no eye contact, just all the small and large things. And I just feel so much waste and so much sorrow about people treat each other and the suffering we go through to ourselves. And I don't know how to be okay with all of that. And I guess you're just saying it's a maturity. It's like, well, this is life, so we just accept it because it's less suffering that way, and we don't ever understand it. I don't know. I don't want to be more roast, but this is what occurs to me a lot.
I used Go on ahead, Vince. You were going to say something.
I was just going to tell you something that somebody once said to me, and they said, "Who are you to take away somebody's suffering? Maybe that suffering is exactly what they require to wake up."
Yeah. Addressing what you were saying about how could God fill in the blank, Tammy, I used to be involved in teachings that had the premise that, how could a loving God does not or would not
Yeah.
permit this sort of suffering, sickness, that a whole lot of New Age stuff is based on that. Course in Miracles, those sort of teachings. And ironically, one of the schools, if you want to call it that, paths, taught that. And eventually, a lot of the practitioners there ended up following Zen. It's really weird. When they found out that their healings and stuff weren't working, they found that the rest of the teaching was actually closer to Zen if you took that side of why would a loving God, not if you just took that one thing out. And they followed, what's her name? Charlotte
I
Beck.
kind of lost you though. What are those teachings? What do you mean by why would a loving
Okay.
God? Can you? Yeah.
Okay, so a loving God would not allow for cancer or anything like this, any suffering, any imperfections. This comes that a lot of these are based in Christian Science. A lot of the New Thought stuff had its origins, without going into a big history about it, in Christian Science. The basic premise is we've got it wrong. If we could perceive or experience as God means us to perceive or does experience, it's all mind, and the mind, capital M, of God is perfect. Therefore, if we can somehow adopt that viewpoint, things will be healed. Things will be smooth over. Your life will run more smoothly. That was more of a new thought
But
adaptation.
what is the viewpoint, that illness is
Okay.
fine and
No,
good?
no, the opposite. Saying that a loving God would not permit this, and if we can just abide, if you like, in that mind sufficiently, then healings will take place. And there have been, recorded miracles happening, and there's no doubt that what seemed like miracles happen. I don't know how that happens, but they were making that was the big carrot, you see. And I'm not saying cynically that it was a selling point, but that was
Like,
the
try to
ideal.
have good thoughts and then good things will happen. Is that it? Like, if you have good thoughts and abide and then good things.
Kind of along those lines, at least. Yeah, pretty much that. So you purify your thoughts, your attitude, that sort of thing. Things will pan out what actually turns to be in your favor, really. And although it did say that it would include everyone, there was that sort of caveat. But yeah, that's a big thing, and I was kind of into that. And then the irony was when I read some of these practitioners' later books that they brought out, when they become more Zen-like, they were just talking about what we're talking about here, but even more Zen-like, like just be, just allow, be, watch the unfolding. It was pretty much that simple. So I think the reason I brought that up is because you mentioned something about God and to do with this sort of thing, or have I lost the plot
Yeah,
again?
no, I definitely have a lot of those ideas as well.
Considerations, yeah.
Yeah, if I only, make sure that my thoughts or vibration are a certain way, or do the right thing.
You see, and what I found is that that's a story about what I imagine, and all these other people are imagining an imagined God, perhaps, would be like. How can we know that? How can we possibly know that? Well, it's come from some woman's, Mary Baker Eddy's teaching, and she somehow had the key or some sort of special dispensation, So what I like about this is it's about direct experience. What am I experiencing right now? Unfiltered, unimpeded by stories and that sort of thing. What's my actual right here now experience?
This.
And then all the thoughts about suffering or wasting your life, or what does God want, or what should I be doing, or how can I be better, or why are people suffering? What happens to all of that? You just are okay with your physical experience?
Well, yeah, they fall away, or as we said earlier, they impinge less often, and they're given less or no credence. Meaning starts to dissolve. Like we're meaning makers. Oh, this means this. And that's reinforced all over the place, isn't it? If you read any sort of news article, it's like, could the Russians do this? Could this mean this about the UK economy? Could it? I have no idea. It might not. But there'll be a big article, editorial about it.
Yeah.
It's all supposition. It's just made up. If you think about it, really. It's hypothetical. A lot of it's just hypothetical.
So there's no resolution. We don't become, our life doesn't become incredible. We're not like,
No.
We don't live out all our potential and become also a rock star and also Tony Robbins and also the Queen of England. And we don't become.
Thank God. No, thank God I didn't. I'd have got loaded out of my mind had I continued in music. I'd have been dead possibly, but I can't know that. I might have been rich, but it didn't look that way.
And you
So,
don't find resolution on the thought level of why they're suffering or what God wants of us. It's just that everything
no,
just
because
falls
those,
away because you're like, I can't reach answers. Basically, it's like giving up. I can't reach anything. Like, so just
yeah,
be with what
yeah,
is.
really, yeah, really. But and you know, it's surrender, but it's not. It's sur- I don't really like that word because again, it's like forgiveness. It's one of those slightly loaded words I've found.
Yeah, it
Because
feels
it's not
bad,
like I
kind of.
surrendered. It's like it was like I saw that the efforting was futile.
Right,
I'd become exhausted with
right.
searching, I guess, is the closest I could come. Yet
Yeah,
another plan hadn't worked. Yet another great idea had fallen the first hurdle.
yeah.
And for me, it took into my 60s. And so, like Vince, I had a moment of going back in time thinking, well, what about blah, blah, blah when I was young? What about it? Nothing. It did what it did.
Yeah.
It became a nonsense.
Yeah. If anything, I guess that feels like, sorry, kind of the path that I've been on, like getting so excited about any new idea that could bring any kind of anything in any direction, whether it's success or not success or peace or not peace,
Yeah.
whatever the new idea is, so much like my whole heart, my whole self, all my thoughts, all my attention and energy, and then it not quite living up to it, and then me bashing myself, oh, you're just not grateful enough. It did really
Yeah.
happen. You know what I mean? Like all of this stuff, it's just been so crazy what goes on in this body and mind, and it just and it's starting to peter out a little bit, but I'm kind of fighting it, but I have no energy to fight it, but I still want things to be awesome, and maybe I should try harder. So I'm kind of like in those kind of death
I,
throes, but they're taking a very long time because
you
like
probably are. I can't tell. I'm not psychic, but
yeah,
when the penny drops, the penny drops, and you can't
yeah,
really,
and
as far
until
as I
then I'll
know,
keep
have
trying
anything.
new ideas. Yeah.
Well, I think was it. I think who was the bloke who brought Zen to the West? Suzuki. There was one of the first was introduced, and apparently it's attributed to him. I don't know if he actually said it. Is that enlightenment is he called it enlightenment is luck, but my memory's bad. I'm paraphrasing, but a little practice might oil the wheels. That's wildly paraphrasing, but even
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of a concession, really, I think.
Yeah.
But what I have found, what seems to be the case, is if you do keep coming back, not necessarily here, but I think I'd recommend
It
here
works if
because
you
you
work
seem
it.
to. Sorry.
Keep coming back. It works if you work it.
Oh, that 12-step thing. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. That there's something about it's not that you get it by osmosis, like you don't get the Diksha thing. We have a blessing. It's not like you'll go somewhere and because you go there and the guy or woman up there has got it. It's not that, but there is something about what's it called? It's like the idea of is it sangha or satsang, like in the company. That's supposed to be one of the ingredients on I think on the Buddhist path. Is one of it is
Transmission.
the is what? Sorry.
Transmission.
Yeah, transmission. I
Mm.
don't know about that. There may be something to that, but it's really about if you hang out with this, it's supportive. Is all I can say. That's been my experience prior to this. I think
Mhm.
it's really important. I think particularly because there's a weirdness to other people about this, and it's more comfortable hanging out with weird people. It doesn't mean you avoid so-called normies or whatever they're called out there. They're not normies. They're abnormies. But it means that you you don't feel so isolated.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we are alone. Is that the right? I don't even know. But it certainly helps at this still for me to come here and also to share it with if invited.
Yeah.
I've fallen foul of doing the opposite. If it's invited, like the pass it on message. Which step? I don't even know which step that is. It doesn't matter what step it is. Up the top, like it's
At 12,
like an
yeah.
upper feta.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something to that though, because it I don't know what the word is, to do with yeah, that paying it forward thing.
Mm.
Just keeping it moving. It's to do with fluidity or something like that,
Mm.
I think. But not thinking, oh, because I'm good at this, God will mean that I do it, because it's really unexpected the way the passing on and stuff happens as well. Most of the encounters where people said, oh, well, that was interesting, it had been someone on the bus or something, impromptu.
Mhm.
Someone said, oh, there's something about what you're saying that is really, and they open up. Quite often you find people open up if you listen. And that's enough sometimes. You don't have to say anything. They go, oh, cheers, bye. That's great, you know. And that's not personal either. It can't be.
What did you mean by people open up if you listen?
Well, I'm not saying that if conditions, sometimes that happens. Like, you know, you meet people apparently by chance and they're going through something and you just listen to them openly and then they say, oh, I feel better now. And you haven't said a word, or you might have said one thing, that sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
just being open. I found that happens a fair amount, but that's not designed by me. That's just part of the movement of things.
Not to do with enlightenment.
I don't know what that is, and I'm not being clever. I don't. No, it's not. I don't think.
Mm. You were just saying on a human level.
On no level, it's not. It's just it happens that way. Do you see what I mean? It's not a level thing.
Yeah.
There becomes no delineation between, for me, between human and not human. That doesn't come into it in a way. That's why I like what Vince says about is becoming more, in a way, it sounds like a paradox, more human. I might be misquoting you, Vince. I don't know. Something like that, isn't it?
I would agree.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it feels like to me. More present as
Mm-hmm.
the character, Tim, if you like. I don't even think like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Footsteps.
In other words, being able to be more open and interact with other people and with this life rather than shutting off. In other words, being able to.
Yes, but that
Be
just
with it.
happens. It's like it's not that has unfolded. Is the best way of putting it. That's how that has shown up more. It's not like a calculated. I'm not saying you're saying this. It's not like a mission.
Yeah.
That become in this here. That's become more the case. Yeah, because yes, you become less defended because a me has to defend itself, doesn't it? So you do contract into a me, and the less that's there, if you like, the less that impinges. Hence, the more open you are. One is there.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, more available, I suppose. another way.
Yeah, if we're not constantly going off into stories, then and getting panicked about them, then we can just be. It's simpler to be with the things that arise in the course of a regular day.
Yeah, thinking doesn't impinge in the same way. Or as we said earlier, if it revs up a bit, you just notice and it falls away.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't, and it might linger longer a bit, but that is also okay. That doesn't mean anything. It's not a sign that you're not on board with it, this or anything like that.
But isn't it? It is though.
Is
Isn't
what?
it a
Sorry.
barometer? It is a barometer of how we're
No,
doing.
what? No, because anything could happen. You know, if someone that I know dropped while I was walking down the stairs, I was going to say drop dead. 1 second. You're right. I'll be back. Are you going yet? Oh, I'll be back.
That was all lovely. So what do I do now, Vince?
I can
What's
carry
my
on now.
homework? Oh, go, Tim.
Yeah, the example I was going to give was, okay, if someone close to me dropped dead right now, I don't know how I'd react. I don't. I can only imagine based on the past, my past, other people's reports of how they've been. We had a friend who had a new, reasonably old, that doesn't matter, boyfriend was in love with him, and they hadn't been together long. And in the night, he just passed away in bed with her, you know. And she had her own way of dealing with it, and other things. So, and I thought, I can't imagine what she's going through, or how I would deal with it, because I can't. I can only either look at what she's going through over the weeks, or read about someone else who had a similar. Do you see what I mean? So I don't know what will happen,
Mm-hmm.
and it wouldn't be a barometer. It would unfold as it did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I only know about right now, really, if I look at it.
Mm-hmm. So not make such a big deal about my crazy thoughts and crazy body reactions to them.
No, because we give them, to reiterate, to repeat, we give them meaning, don't we? It says
Mhm.
something about me.
Yeah.
When it's an opinion, it's like the meaning is an opinion about what's going on. Someone else might have a different opinion, like with the dog incident topic. We're talking about being scared of dogs. Isn't that weird? Not really. Okay, not weird. Bye. Bye. Love you.
Mhm.
Mm. That wasn't a slam door, it's a loud door.
Oh, we can hear it on the Zoom.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah, it's got good filtering.
Yeah.
That wasn't her shouting either. That's a joke, sorry.
So I'm hearing that a lot of suffering dissolves when things collapse and we realize we're not a person or there never was a person. And until then, I'm hearing be compassionate and don't give so much meaning to the fact that you're still a screwed up mess or other kinder words. And just try to be 10% less crazy. And if you can't, that's okay. And come back to the next meeting. That's how I summarize.
Okay, there's one thing, yeah, I mean, why not? But I mean, the key thing is to somehow and find out, here we go with non-dual speak, but it's not meant to be. Find out if you can find the one who is a screwed up mess. And that might not be the right question, but for me, that would be a way to go, but that might not be the right. Vince might have a more nuanced or articulate approach.
Meaning when I'm going into a story, find out who's going into the story.
Yeah. So in whatever way works for you.
Yeah, for me, when I ask who's really there or stuff, I just go into my mind. I don't know how to look for that. But
Mm.
for me, like I've had more, I think, dissolvings when I go into sensation or just see what's here or do some kind of exploration, and then maybe I disappear and I just there's just what is kind of thing, more of a sense of it. But when I try to answer things with my mind is extremely well trained at.
Well, put it this way, Tammy, if you find
Yeah.
yourself in the mind, then it's a self of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can go to your doctor and ask to a referral to a surgeon who'll cut that out and you'll be right. Or hang on, they're not going to find one in your mind, are they? How can we get that self out of the mind? Well, maybe it's not an actual self, maybe it's just a story. So what I'm saying, and I'm being a bit lighthearted about it, and that is that when you're looking for a self or self inquiry, there's no point in going into the mind, because if you find anything in the mind, it's only of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, when we say, is there a self there running the show? If that self only exists in the mind, then it's a mind construction, isn't it? So, can you find a self anywhere outside of the mind? In other words, in the body, in sensations, or outside the body, where anywhere outside of the mind. So there's a way of looking. How do you look if you don't go into the mind? Because there's no point if you whatever you find in the mind is of the mind. So outside of the mind, when you look for a self, what are you going to do? How are you going to look?
Yeah, and I don't know how. So then I start to think about how to look, and then I'm in thought. So
Yes, that's exactly right. So is it clear to you that you could only ever come to the conclusion that there is a self in story?
yes, because the idea self is a word. In other
Yeah.
words,
Yeah. So what I want to say to you, Tammy, is everything is exactly as it should be. What you're going through right now is exactly what you need to go through right now. What you've been through is exactly what you needed to go through then. Nothing can be and nothing is wrong, because that's, again, just something of the mind.
well, if there wasn't something wrong, I wouldn't be suffering. You know what I mean? Like I'd
No,
be
no, now there's a good trick, and that's a good one for you. That's a logical conclusion you just jumped to. If there was, so firstly, you're saying there's something wrong, right? So that's also debatable. That's just how you describe it. And then you're saying that there's a conclusion that comes out of that. And that's a logical conclusion. So it bears no weight in actuality. It only bears weight in storyland.
but also here. In other words, I still think I'm a person. So there's something wrong with me in the non-dual world, and there's
No,
something wrong with me in the real world because I'm still suffering. So in every world, there's something wrong with me.
no, no,
Any way you look at it.
no, there's nothing wrong anywhere there. There is suffering, but it's a jump to say that's wrong.
Hmm. And that there's anything I can do about it, or I'm not trying hard enough or something, or not trying in the right
Well, that's
direction.
yeah, 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 yeah. So the idea that there's somebody judging that says yes, you deserve something is total rubbish.
that's the core, isn't it? It seems that you're saying, Tammy, that suffering is wrong, that I shouldn't be suffering, I shouldn't be feeling this way.
Yeah, that I want to use
How
one of the
can you know that?
systems to end suffering, and I've failed, like either on the human level or on the non-dual level, I've failed to eradicate it. So on all the levels that I mentioned before, whether it's becoming a more stoic person or a more successful person or a more enlightened person or a non-person, I can't do any of them. So I haven't gotten rid of the suffering. So yeah.
But here you go. So suffering, there has to be identification as a person or as something in order to be there to be suffering. And if you took away the person, if you take away the identification with a person, then what happens to the suffering? It ceases to be done to somebody or applied to somebody or happening to somebody. It becomes just a happening. And when it's just a happening, it's the first arrow, not the second arrow. There is no suffering. And it's not, we're not just talking about definitions here. We're saying that the actual experience of it will change when you recognize that there's no self that it's happening to. Because when we take away the self, we take away the meaning, which was also created. Just as the self is created, meaning is created. They're all stories. So if we take away the meaning, what we're left with is just the first arrow, that is uncomfortable conditions,
Mm-hmm.
but not the spiral out from that into suffering.
And does the first arrow stay when we realize we're not a person?
Well, it transmutes a lot easier than when we think there's a person there that it's happening to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess I'll try to believe I'm not a person. Is that my homework?
No, I've given you your homework. You've forgotten it already, have you?
10% less of clenching.
The word this should immediately refocus your attention onto what is actually experienced through one of your five senses. And everything else is only about. So you're going to use the word this to refocus your attention on what is actually impinging on one of your sense organs, not your mind sense organ, the other ones.
And the fact that that goes on for hours and hours, I just don't feel like a failure that it's just happening. I'll just.
Yeah. No, definitely don't feel like a failure about anything. No, I'm not wanting to give you something to consume every moment of your life. I want you to hold it fairly lightly. But so it's going to be whether or not the idea turns up to say the word this and refocus your attention. Now you can't control that. That'll happen or not happen. Simple. Right.
But
So
also, you're saying to refocus my attention on something that's unpleasant and I wish I could get rid of. So then what do I do? Like this, and then I add sucks because this isn't fun. So then what?
yeah. Okay. All I'm asking you to do, right, that's the exercise because you feel better having something tangible to do. But what I'm wanting out of that, what I'm wanting you to do that for, is to start to differentiate between what is actually physically there and what stories come up about it. Now, I'm not wanting you to stop the stories. I'm not wanting you to do anything other than recognize those two components in what you're experiencing. What is coming in through your physical senses and what's everything else. That's all. And when you do that, however well you do it or don't do it is irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Just do that. If it turns up, now you can't do it. What's going to happen is that you're going to be going along, la da 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 da, and you're going to be experiencing something, and then the idea, the word "this," will pop into your head, and when it
But
does,
I think it
you'll
does. I think it does, Vince. Like right now, I'm feeling discomfort in the body. So I'm like, okay, this, but it's discomfort and I still can't solve it. In other words, and
don't.
it's been going on for
We're not
days.
trying to solve it. All we're trying to do is right. So when you look at the sensations in the body, that's great. That's exactly what we want to do, right? But it's the remainder, right? There'll be all these stories trying to stick onto those sensations. And I just want you to recognize them when they're happening there, right? At least some of the time. That's all. Not do anything about it, not trying to solve it, just recognize that's a physical sense being activated, and that's a story. That's all I want you to do. And then just move on to the next thing, whatever that is. Right.
Mhm.
If you do that and then you go, but this is uncomfortable and I really want to, now my old way is to try and fix it, to eradicate it, to change it and so on. Well, if you that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. That's okay. That's also no problem.
Mhm.
But just start off with distinguishing the difference between what's coming in through your physical senses and what's a story about that. What's the meaning that you create for that? Once we get that really clear, right, you watch, things will change as a result of that. Now, when I say, it's not there's no, you're not going to get a medal for doing it well, and you're not going to get a cross for doing it bad. It all is just the way it is, and that's just our focus, our direction of looking for the moment is in that, to differentiate between what is physical and what is about. That's all.
Okay. I mean, I think I do. I see the story and I see the physical sensation. It's just that they're not abating more than they are, and I wish they would abate quicker. I would realize something quicker. I'm aware that the body is doing something and the mind is doing something, and I'm aware that I think that one might be causing the other. I feel them all, but
Yeah.
it's just nothing seems to be moving is all. But okay,
And did you recognize that that whole thing you just said
it's
was
a
in
story.
the story category? Yes, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. So I know it seems slow. I know it seems like you're on the slow train to nowhere, but you know, you are. It is happening for you, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. This was really, really amazing. Thank you so, so, so much.
You're welcome, Tammy. Thank you.
Thanks,
You are
Vince.
amazing.
Oh,
Oh. uh, how's things been for you, Jed?
Um, well, what is kind of there now is kind of is a familiar thing. Um, it's not a big deal, and But what is kind of niggling me, I suppose, is how to look in a way when I feel a contraction or something. Um, how to look for the self in that, or how to use that as a as a way of letting go of selfing or something like that. Um,
So answer me this. Have you had the experience of recognizing that there is no actual self there running the show? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So forget it. You don't need to go back and look again and again and again. You know what you're going to find if you go looking, don't you? Right. So what we're talking about is not an actual self. That's finished. That's past. That's done. What we're looking at is, what does a sense of self mean?
mm,
Right? Or if we get more specific, sometimes we might say, what is it? What is this sense of doership or agency about? Or what is this? You know, who is the one that feels responsible or guilty when that turns up? Or well, a million different versions of
that kind of
what
stuff.
is
Yeah.
the actual experience that is there. Right. So when there's a contraction, let's not any longer presume that that's showing you identification. It may well be just the nervous system catching up, the integration period where it takes time for things to change, right? But if the same thing keeps coming back, that's suggesting that, yes, there's something to look at, but you're not going to go looking for a self. You know that. You know what's there or what's not there. What you might look at then is a deeper inquiry. What belief is there that rests on, that experience? What's that contraction responding to? Is it a belief about something?
Okay. No, that's really good. So okay, so then what I would say is there's like a often I'll do that, and it's something like, oh, I'm getting it wrong, or not to do with this process so much as, so I don't know, some aspect of life. There's a belief that's
Mm.
still alive somewhere. Um, I guess I just have to. I guess there's some kind of questioning, doubting, because I feel like I've seen that 100,000 times, and it
Yeah,
still
yeah,
happens. But
yeah.
I guess it just happens till it doesn't happen.
Well, yeah, you could say that, and that's accurate. I think it'll happen till it doesn't, for sure. Um, you can say, this is curious. Why does that persist? Now, not looking for an answer, but just be curious about the fact that it's there, and that
So when I
opens things up.
so with the idea of sort of what I've experienced so far with that is, if I do that, oh, this is curious, it can be a bypass, like in a way it just goes and I shift into a mode of curiosity then, and whatever else was there is just gone. But do you mean be curious in a kind of subtler way so that maybe something emerges from it?
Well, that would depend, So yes, it may be appropriate that it just simply dissolves because it's just something that turned up, that got triggered, whatever, and you can put it into context, and so consequently, it's nothing. It just goes. But if it's a repetitive thing, um, then you might be curious as to why it keeps coming back when it's seen
Hmm.
to be what it is, and then you might just kind of sink down into a little deeper place, look a little, right, but always by invitation. So you're inviting something to reveal itself, right? And you know that the moment you get aggressive and go hunting for it, it's going to hide. Right? So that invitation, right? They might or might not take it up. You might get see it this time. It might be another 10 times before you see it. Who knows? You might never see it. You might see that it's there, but never see what it is, and that's also fine. That's quite enough sometimes, just to see that something is there that's probably no reason for it to be there, and then consequently it's not there from then on. So when you say I'm I'm not doing it right, I mean that reeks of, that shouts out story stuff, doesn't it? And then because immediately you can go, well, what's right and what's wrong and whatever. The reality is, against this, what is this that's here at the moment? And that I'm not doing it right turns out to be a feeling you've got. And that feeling is a feeling of dread or panic or whatever version it is of that, an uncomfortable feeling. And then you'll discover that that's got to do with a story about consequences.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, story. Yeah, a repetitive, persistent story or something.
Hmm. And some things will be persistent just because they there's a bit more glue. They're a bit stickier than other things. And we lie to ourselves all the time. That's a big one. The number of times I've thought I've got something only to realize later that I haven't got it. But part of the realizing I haven't gotten it is the getting of it, kind of thing. But yeah, we can think that we're somewhere and then suddenly find out we're not. Yeah, which is all just part of the movement of the way things work. I mean, when you think about it, it's such a huge thing to not have an opinion about things. I mean, how we've been brought up to have an opinion about everything. We have opinions about opinions. Right? So the idea of not having an opinion, not judging something, is really foreign to us. It's not part of the way we've ever been.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just seems so automatic to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so my sense of it now, having heard you, thought, you know, it's got to be okay to have the judgment, really, hasn't it? I guess that's kind of the
Yeah.
yeah, that's the bit that I think I'm doing the judging of the judging, basically.
Yeah. 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 And the crazy thing is, and this is a really classic example of it, the moment you see it's there, and it might be the second layer, it might be the judging of the judgment rather than the actual initial judgment. But the moment you see it, it's gone. It's laughable. The whole thing just doesn't hold water. And it's the same kind of thing with suffering for Tammy's benefit. The moment you see what's actually going on, it doesn't hold water. It changes.
And in a way, even before you see it, it seems to me, so this thing will come, oh, that's wrong. And I feel a slightly kind of, some kind of contraction.
Mm.
Um, but even that, which is the thing I'm now bringing as a thing I want to be rid of, it's not very significant, really. It's a
Mm.
very subtle inner thing that has very little consequence, really, unless I kind of believe it, I suppose, or get
Yeah, yeah.
into.
And there's that movement is in that direction all the time to you get more sensitive and you see things that are more trivial, but they're still there, and so
Yeah.
you know, that's how they change. Mm. All right. Well, I've had enough. I'll go and have some tea. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, Vince.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Vince.
Cheers.
Cheers, Jed. Bye, Tammy. Bye,
Bye,
Anand.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.